Dialed in
to Bucks and Brews, you might hear something
you can use.
like tips on your cash or tips on the suds.
You're gonna want to
The
use
smarts of these stuff.
because they know the
And
brews.
they know the Bucks, and they know they can't help the stubborn fucks.
So listen up, because shit's not funny.
Save yourself some
Beer money. Bucks
and brews.
Bucks and
Bucks
Brews.
and brews.
Bucks and Brews.
Welcome back to Bucks and Brews. So, Nick, it's been 15 minutes in real time, but a week for everybody else.
Yeah.
Hit us with your new open.
So everybody, thank you so much for listening. We're excited about today's episode. If you could like, subscribe, share, tell your friends, tell your family. This is going to be a really fun one for us.
Yeah.
I say timeshares is something that's near and dear to all of our hearts. David, what are you drinking?
So tonight I am drinking something new for me. Leinenkugel's Juicy Pear. Refreshing and tart with natural peach flavor. You did not enjoy this.
I did not.
I like this. This is way better than the Busch Light pear because it's not
Light
as
peach?
It's not as sorry.
Yeah.
It's not as peachy
Yeah.
as the Busch Light, but it has no Busch Lightiness.
Say, dude, a Busch Latte. Don't judge. So speaking of Busch Latte, I went with Anheuser-Busch Bud Light because it's the tried, the true, always the blue, and I just enjoy Bud Light. Say today we're going to be talking about timeshares.
We are. We
Uh,
have a special guest.
we do. I say an expert in this
Yes.
whole entire field. We're going to talk about the goods, the bads, all of the fun. I say, Mr. Brian, thank you so much for joining us. Tell us what you're drinking.
Thanks very much for having me, guys. Actually, since it's late in the day for me for this, I'm actually drinking a Bang. I don't know if you guys have heard of that. It's one of the more ridiculous energy drinks that my wife has found for me, and it's
Let's say.
something like 8,000 milligrams of caffeine in it. And so, in order to survive late into the evening with small children, this is a regular for me. So it's even in an absolutely massive mug here for. It's the only thing I can get to fit that giant can in there. So that's what I'm drinking this evening.
That's great,
Excellent.
man. Thank you for joining us. So, if you wouldn't mind, give us a little bit of history about you and how you fell in love with this whole timeshare stuff.
For me, my father actually started the very first timeshare website on the internet back in the early 1990s. I was actually older than almost all other websites that is. I don't know if any of you guys remember back in the 1990s, but websites like Google didn't even exist in 1991, 92. And basically he and a group of other timeshare owners started getting together on a system called Prodigy, for anyone who's that old.
I am that old.
I am not that old. So
I am that old.
Predated my internet days, at least. I was alive, but certainly wasn't active on things like that. But that morphed into an actual website in the early 1990s and has continued on for the past 30 years, basically, as the largest source of consumer information for timeshare owners out there. Hundreds of thousands of owners have come across Tug in their entire lifetime. Unfortunately, it's really for lack of a better term, the only place out there where people get the truth about timeshares versus the marketing and the sales pitches and the misleading things that have caused this industry to have such a black eye throughout its entire existence. Timeshares haven't been had the best sort of what's the word I'm looking for? Certainly not
Reputation?
highly thought of. Generally you say, hey, I bought a timeshare, and people kind of look at you funny or feel pity on you or mock you and things like that. And it's because of the way they've been sold, and the product is, when you're kind of treated like a used car salesman as a timeshare salesman. And it's not so much the product itself, it's the problem with how it's sold and how it's misled. And what the person thinks they're being sold is not what they're buying. Is for a lack of a better term, the best way to sum up a timeshare. Even today, it hasn't changed in 40 years. And people do find our website. Unfortunately, it's usually too late because, as many of you know, the industry only allows a very, very short time for someone to legally get out of a timeshare. It's usually measured in days, with the average being about a week to cancel. And, it's done deliberately because, they don't want people to do the research before they get off vacation. Your goal was to sipping Mai Tais by the pool and enjoying this experience. And this is what you want to buy for your family. And hey, sign up, once in a lifetime deal. You'll never regret it. You can have these vacations now for the rest of your life. And then by the time they get home and realize, hey, that's not exactly what I bought, it's too late to cancel, and thus the downward spiral of the average timeshare purchase, even today. That sums it up in a nutshell, for lack of a better term. So the Tug website exists to essentially provide owners the ability to find that information out either before you buy or before it's too late for you to cancel, so that you're able to rescind and discover that you can buy that exact same product on the resale market from an existing owner for pennies on the dollar, if not even free in most cases. And usually when I tell someone that they could buy a timeshare for free on our site or eBay or anything like that, I'm looked at like I have a third eye on my forehead. And thus, people, that can't be the same thing, or you're running a scam or something like that. And it's truly one of the most amazing dynamics and anything I've ever encountered in my life. I took over the business from my father in 2015 or so. So I've been doing it for 2005. I'm sorry. I've been doing it for almost 20 years now. And I'm very, very happy to take over what my father started and provide a website where owners can go to get help and advice and the real information about timeshares, and not something that a salesperson has drummed up to sell them something.
Great. So because you brought it up, you only have a little bit of time to get out of it.
Yes.
Now, some of the timeshares I've sat through, they want a pretty good amount down. So if I cancel, how long does it take to get my money back?
It's a great question. And when you rescind, obviously you have between 3 and 15 days. I don't know any that are outside that range. Florida, for example, is 10 days, and it's based on the state you bought in, not the state you live in, and not the state. It's where you bought the timeshare. So if you're in Vegas, Vegas law applies. If you bought it in Orlando, Florida law applies. But it's always in the contract you signed. It spells it out in great detail, the exact way you rescind, as well as the time you have. Unfortunately, that contract's by design tens of pages of legalese that no one reads. You just salesman, hey, sign this, we'll take care of everything. And they usually finance this with a down payment or so on and so forth. Legally, they don't have to inform you of your cancellation has been processed. You just get a refund within 30 or 45 days. And in most cases, we've never heard of, in the United States anyway, it's certainly not unheard of, but it's very rare that they will cancel. They will not honor a rescission if you legally follow the instructions. Where it really comes into play is if you don't follow the directions, meaning you don't go with what's on the sales contract. Most people will call their salesman because they got a card. The guy says, hey, call me anytime, no problem. And the salesman were like, sure, yeah, I'll process your cancellation. Well, calling and talking to the salesman, he's just, that guy never called me. He doesn't want to give up his commission. So if you don't follow the rules directly, now you're in a he said, she said situation where, the salesman might not even work there anymore. And he's certainly not going to walk up and do your cancellation for you and take money out of his own pocket. So it's extremely important to follow the directions and the rescission. It's something that's backed by every state's real estate law. So it's not like it's something that they can just choose not to do. The only catch you have there is not following the directions. If it says you need to mail it to this address, mail it to that address. Retain proof, and it's important that it doesn't have to arrive in that 3 to 15 days. It just has to be sent, meaning you have to exercise your right to cancel within the time allotted. It doesn't matter when they get it, and they can take up to 30 to 45 days to refund your money, but you are due back everything you've paid, as well as the cancel would be null and void.
I say that's good. And it's good to hear that people are actually getting their money back. It might take a little bit of time, but they're getting it back.
It is, yes, that these are very, very large corporations. You're talking Marriott's and Wyndham's and Hilton's and so on and so forth. So the only situation you run into when something like that happens is with Mexican timeshares. It's really just kind of the wild, wild west down there, and there's not really, while there is a governmental agency that oversees timeshare sales and stuff like that. It's the salespeople down there are just ruthless. They're
yeah, they are.
They're getting huge amounts of commissions off these things, and they'll lie to your face and not even break a sweat doing it. So in situations like that where it's very, very common, we hear all the time is, hey, I went back the next day to cancel and they said I couldn't cancel, or they told me no problem, but here I'm home a month later, here's my bill. And stuff like that. If you have actually gone through the process of canceling, and we always urge people to retain proof, at that point you fall into a dispute category with your credit card. File the dispute, cancel the card. Express that, hey, I follow the directions, I went to cancel. They're hoping that you just suck it up. They're hoping that you don't fight it, that you just pay. And that's not something unique to Mexico. That happens in a separate part of the timeshare industry that we'll get to later. but it's always important that to retain proof of what you said, because or proof of what you did, because when it comes down to a he said she said situation, if it ever got to court, or if it ever got to a situation where you're in a dispute with your credit card, unfortunately, hey, I called this guy John Bimbab, and I talked to him on the phone. He said it was fine. That just doesn't hold water. You have to have a piece of paper. You have to have, a return receipt that you mailed it in. These things that provide proof that you did exercise your cancellation. And at that point, you can have the power of, your own credit card, especially if you use an American Express or stuff like that, where the dispute process works in your favor versus the other side's favor. But it's absolutely extremely important to follow the details to the letter in the contract, and that way you protect yourself should anything arise. But it's relatively rare, especially in the United States, for any issues to arise in a cancellation, provided you follow the directions to do that.
Perfect.
One of the questions I have doing research is, why do they make it so hard to get out of a contract? I mean, I have a piece of real estate. I go and sell my real estate, no big deal. If I die, it goes, to probate. If I have a timeshare and I die, that's basically forced on my heirs.
Next of kin.
That's actually one of the most common misconceptions in the timeshare industry. And the only
Okay.
people that are spreading that are scammers, for lack of a better term, exit company scams.
Okay.
Because it's a very effective way to scare you into using a company that's trying to help you out, for lack of a better term. If I'm trying to sell you a product for $5,000 that will help you get out of your timeshare that you aren't able to get out of, it's very, very effective for me to say, hey, man, you don't want your kids stuck with this. You don't want to leave this burden to your children. And the fact of the matter is you don't. You leave it to your estate, which is a completely separate situation. And the estate is responsible for that timeshare. However, it's not an asset. In most cases, it's worth next to nothing, as most timeshares are when you talk about the resale market. And in all situations, the estate, unless the children are actually on the ownership, just like I use this example all the time. You guys own a house. If your children aren't on the deed of that house, the moment you die, your kids don't own that house. It just doesn't happen. It may eventually belong to them. It still has to go through probate. There's many signatures required. The same thing with a timeshare. Your children don't become the owners of that timeshare the moment you die. Now, it's very, very common that a timeshare will continue to send the bills to your children. And it's very, very common that children, their parents are in the hospital or have signed power of attorney, or for whatever reason have taken over the bills or the responsibilities for the parent, or the parent has died and the kids just don't know any better, will continue to pay the bills. And that's very, very common, especially when you're trying to sort out a very, very expensive large estate, a large closing, or something in multiple locations. And the kids really didn't have any idea. Oh my God, he owned a timeshare in Hawaii. I have no idea. And in those situations, the children will continue to pay the bills for years, not knowing what they need to do. And are always our first suggestion, especially if it's a US-based timeshare, which the majority of them are, and I'm sure most of your listeners are focused on that, is to contact the resort as, obviously the power of attorney doesn't apply if the parent is dead, but the executor of the estate or whoever is handling the estate itself, contact the resort and inform them that the deed owner is dead, meaning hey, he's no longer alive. You can keep coming after me if you want to. It should trigger the process in most situations to surrender that deed back. Again, assuming your children don't want it. And most of them don't. But that is the number one question. Do the children even want the timeshare? And if not, if the deed owner is dead, the last deed owner doesn't automatically transfer to the children. That's 100% false. I'm sure if you guys are referencing the John Oliver episode that was super popular, I was interviewed personally for that episode numerous times, and that was the biggest argument I had with the producers on that show. Is I didn't sign off on that. Again, they interviewed a bunch of exit companies, they interviewed a bunch of quote unquote lawyers, and in technicality wise, and they didn't feel comfortable making the claim that I'm making on the show, even though it was parody. They didn't want to get sued. It is, when it comes down to common sense, even an asset does not automatically transfer to the children. The signatures required, probate process, all of that is required, and that's something they want. Now, if there was a loan on the timeshare, a loan balance, that would be fulfilled by the estate. Absolutely. However, there's no situation where if the estate is worthless, if the only thing in it, there's not money in the estate, the kids aren't obligated to pay, just like with a credit card. The kids don't have to pay a $30,000 credit card debt that their parents died. It sits in the estate. Now, if there's money in the estate, obviously the credit card collection process can go through. and the executor of the estate would have to divvy out those funds to make that. But that doesn't apply to a timeshare and maintenance fees. It's almost like a rent, or a gym membership or something like that. But the deed itself does not automatically transfer the children. There's no way it can automatically transfer the children. Not in any of the 50 states does that process happen. But it can, obviously, if a child signs that or whatever, or they contact the resort and the resort tries to tell them that. I'm not going to say that hasn't happened before, because as far as the resort are concerned, they want the maintenance fees to continue to be paid. So they're perfectly happy with an heir, a son or daughter who's willing to take over and pay for that timeshare, because now they don't have to take it back and they don't have to try and resell it or find another home for that to get those maintenance fees back. So it's fairly rare that the resorts themselves, especially the larger resorts, that will provide any sort of good guidance for how to get out of a timeshare in that situation, because again, they don't want the timeshare back. They want a paying owner. So it's very, very important for any owner in there, assuming any son or daughter or any heir in that situation. The first step, if you don't want the timeshare, is reaching out to the resort and explaining that, hey, my father's passed away, my mother's passed away. They were the only ones on the deed. I don't want this. How do I give this back to you? I'm the executor of the state, or whoever's handling the process. We're ready to go, have the deed, willing to sign it back to you. Please let me know what we need to do. And usually that will trigger a quit claim deed to be mailed to them, so they sign it, and you're surrendering it back to the association or surrendering it back to Marriott or whoever happens to own that particular timeshare. It's not a quick or easy process, even in buying a timeshare, and it based on the resort. Many resorts, especially the small independent ones, don't have sales offices. They don't have a dedicated staff for taking this stuff back or handling closing costs or something like that. So you're dealing with some lady in a corner who's got a million other jobs, or the management company who's responsible for that, and she's probably got a stack of papers on her desk this high, and so you're looking at a process that could be months in the making, but that's not uncommon in any sort of death or estate process there. But something I say on a regular basis: in no way, shape, or form is an heir forced to take over a timeshare. It just doesn't happen. And anyone that's saying those exact words is someone that is trying to market you into paying them money. It's just the bottom line. And the only people parroting that are the exit company scammers and the people who have interviewed those and decide to use that in an article, unfortunately.
Well, and you bring up the exit companies, and what we've saw is most of them are just, and you alluded to this, not reputable at all.
That is correct. We've the exit companies we've seen, the largest one in existence shut down almost overnight after an attorney general in Washington went after them, and after they were promoted by Dave Ramsey. And so I mean, that's just become just the huge story. And the other ones, it made absolutely no difference in the industry, because all of the other ones, all the other sharks just got bigger, and they just scooped up that prey. The money that is being made by these companies is absolutely, it blows my mind. I worked with, because an internet a business, I've worked with people in the past to help me with Google AdWords and SEO and things like that. And one I happened to work with at the time actually worked for an exit company at one point. Didn't realize it. He just paid to make my website popular. Didn't realize. And as we were discussing the disparity in budgets, I won't say what Tug spends, but he mentioned, he just kind of laughed. He goes, this company spent $80,000 a month in SEO advertising, because their return on investment for one single successful conversion is $5,000. So you can spend you can spend $10, $20, $30 a click and still just make money hand over fist. And they were a very small company spending that much money. And so it's absolutely amazing that how the industry has shifted, where I type in, how do I get out of my timeshare? I type in just about anything timeshare related to Google, and the first 3 ad results, because now Google is very good at integrating ads with native search engine results, where Tug used to dominate and still has pages, keywords where we show up on the first. Unfortunately, the ads are now at the top. And almost all the first results are now sponsored ads, and they're all exit companies. They're all upfront resale scams, but they're written to look like it's a legitimate brand, and they tell you exactly what you want to hear. Get you out of your timeshare, 100% guaranteed, so on and so forth. And that's what I'm looking for. Heck yeah, that sounds amazing. And it's the whole situation where you're told everything you want to hear. We can guarantee get you out of your timeshare, money back guaranteed. We've helped tens of thousands of people get out of their contracts, cancel their contracts, exit their timeshares, whatever the and they do that using two methods. And one is deed back, which they are happy to take customers who are in organizations that have official programs where you can just call them up. Wyndham's a great example. If you own a Wyndham timeshare that's paid off and you don't want it, you can call up Wyndham and give it back for free. Doesn't cost you a dime. They market to Wyndham owners because these owners don't know this. Even though Wyndham does, I mean, I will say they won't advertise it, but they don't make it obvious on their website that you can give it back, because that would be kind of silly of them. But the program has been around for many, many years. But you will find these exit companies market Wyndham owners because they claim, I can get you out of your timeshare, no problem. Well, of course you can. You can just call up Wyndham and say, hey, this John Q. Smith wants out of their timeshare. And thanks for the $5,000. You know, here's your program you can use to get out of your timeshare. And the problem is they're successful in doing that. And the owner's like, oh my God, this is amazing. I tried forever to sell this and was unable to. And these people got me out of my timeshare. And there's only $5,000. And I'll write them an A+ review on Google, and not knowing that you were literally, you know, you paid $5,000 for something you could have done yourself for free. The other exit companies have started, the other timeshare companies have started charging money, Diamond Resorts, Holiday Inn Club Vacations, or some other ones that come off the top of the list. Blue Green will all now, Westgate, another good example, will now charge the owner to give the timeshare back anywhere from $1,000 to $1,500. They will charge that owner. It's usually a year worth of maintenance fees plus closing costs is what it runs out to. And so if you want to give a Diamond Resorts timeshare back that's paid off, you can pay Diamond $1,200 and give it back. Well, so the exit company will just raise their price. Okay, well, we'll charge you $7,000 to get you out of your timeshare. So now
no matter what, we'll make it $5,000.
Yeah, we still get our $5,000, but you know, that was a really hard one to get out. We're going to need to charge you $7,500. Yeah, and you know, so it's the perfect model, because not only can they get those customers, that require no effort whatsoever to get them out of their timeshare, but every other timeshare, because their other system for getting someone out is default and foreclosure. The instructions that these exit companies give are, hey, cease communication with your timeshare. Don't talk to them anymore. Forward all their letters to us. If they reach out to you or they try and get you, say that you've hired us. We now represent you as whatever quote unquote law firm, or they now like to represent themselves as firms, that they're, you know, have lawyers on staff suing timeshares on a regular basis, which is absolute nonsense. Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry.
No, go right ahead.
So sorry, I should have muted that. And so when you're doing that situation, and they once you tell them to stop communicating with your timeshare, one of those things is stop paying your maintenance fees. So you don't need to pay your maintenance fees anymore. You've hired us. And so after 6 months or a year or 15 or 18 months or 2 years, well, now you're in default. Now the timeshare is foreclosing, and the exit company's like, well, hey, we got you out of your timeshare. You know, they're not telling you that foreclosure was a legitimate exit option. You can stop paying yourself. It doesn't cost you anything to stop paying for your timeshare. But they will refuse that money back guarantee because foreclosure was one of the possible exit options. Hey, we got you out of your timeshare. You know, you need to pay us. You don't qualify. And if you refuse to default, well, you didn't follow our program. Thus, you didn't follow through the process. Thus, you're also not qualified for a refund. So those are the two, 99.9% of the solutions that these exit companies provide owners, both of which they can do themselves for free or far less than anything these exit companies charge. And so it's very, very frustrating when I see it on Facebook all the time. I see it on just about every flavor of social media, the comments of these ads where these companies will say, hey, we can get you out of your timeshare. And they say everything I've said up to point. Timeshare industry sucks. You know, they lied to you. Salesmen ripped you off, so on and so forth. Everything you believe is true and is true. And we started this company just to fight those people because they're scumbags, and we sue them all the time, and we can get you out of your timeshare, and you don't feel bad. We'll take care of you. We just need $4,999. And, you know, and people are like, well, hey, you know, that sounds worth it. Money back guarantee. You know, I can finally be out of my timeshare. Had I done it years ago, I'd have been, you know, more than broken even. And so it's developed this industry that is just, you know, I think when timeshare exit team shut its business down, you know, they were making, you know, a couple $100 million a year or something like that. What was in the report inside there. And it's just absolutely mind blowing at how many people are desperate to get out of a timeshare. And it does highlight the fact that the industry is just happy to let those owners get fleeced, both selling them the timeshare and trying to get out of their timeshare, because the industry has done next to nothing to combat that and to fight those exit companies by making it easier for owners to get out of an unwanted timeshare. And it really, the main focus of those are timeshare owners that still have loan balances, because that is the big rub with the exit solutions that timeshare companies provide. Like, you have to have it paid off. Meaning, if I want to give back a Porsche, I can't have an $80,000 loan balance on it. They'll take it back, but I still got to pay the loan. It's not worth what. And that's the case with many timeshares. You took out a $20,000 loan to buy a timeshare that was worth $1. You've only paid off $5,000 of it. You can't give it back. They're not going to take it back unless you pay that $15,000. That loan prevents you from transferring the timeshare. Well, that's where the foreclosure and the default system comes in, because the exit companies say, hey, no problem. We take care of you. You stop paying your bills, stop communicating with them. We guarantee you get you out of your timeshare. Well, yeah, you'll default on it and be foreclosed on. And, the chances of an actual lien being filed against your home, especially when you probably live in a completely different state than the timeshare exists in, extremely low. It's not zero that the timeshare could go after you for that, but it's extremely low. And so foreclosure is a legitimate solution for many, many people, especially when you're looking at paying $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 for something that is worthless, that it has no legitimate resale value. The resort wouldn't even take it back. I mean, they won't even take it back for free, that they charge you $30,000 for it. And it's not as taboo as it once was. Yeah, it's probably going to show up on your credit as a default. But is 100 points of your credit score worth 30 grand? I know people pay for a lot less than that to quote unquote fix their credit scores, and then it's gone after their 7 years. And that's if it even gets reported. I will say that it's far more likely to get reported defaulting on the loan than defaulting on the maintenance fees. But at the end of the day, you paid way too much for something, and you're underwater in it. It has no resale value. You have to take a hard look at the options that you have available to you, and defaulting on yourself or paying someone $5,000 to trick you into defaulting. There's a no-brainer in that one. One just sounds better to you, and you can kind of feign ignorance that, hey, I didn't really realize what I was doing. I hired this company and this is what they told me to do. It's not really much defense. The results are the same. The credit bureau is not going to care. The timeshare is not going to care. At the end of the day, you stop paying your bills, and thus the consequences are going to be the same. But all of that is dressed up by these exit companies when it's really a very, very simple situation.
Well, I know when we were looking at doing this episode, I went to Reddit and hopped on the timeshare subreddit, and everybody on there was like, we should talk to Brian from Timeshare User Group. And I'm like, all right, well, I need to look into that, because I never heard of the group, because I don't own a timeshare. So
Right.
Yep.
I reached out to you and I'm like, hey, I'd love to talk to you. And literally you came back and you're like, do you want to hear the good? Do you want to hear the bad? Do you want to hear everything? And I'm like, well, I want to hear everything.
Yeah, no, it's not a $10 billion a year industry for nothing. The product itself doesn't get the complaints. It's really around how it's bought and sold. That is the black eye. That is the storm cloud. But unfortunately, that turns off so many people that it just kind of drifts over into the ownership side. And the things that everyone says about timeshares are negative, they're all true. They don't really make that stuff up. But it's still, when you're on vacation, when you're going to the timeshare, when you're staying there, that's usually the most appealing part. That's why people buy it. And that's why using the timeshare is always going to be the only way you extract any value out of the timeshare. Meaning, many people buy it. Now, I haven't been to Disney in 10 years, or I bought it when my kids were 5. We went to Disney every year. Now they're 18. I don't want to go to Disney. I hadn't. So how do I get rid of this timeshare in Orlando? It's a very, very common situation. Not using it is the number one reason people want to get out of their timeshare, other than death. I suppose every timeshare owner needs a way to get out eventually. But actually using the timeshare is the only value that timeshare has in most situations. And the fact that you were willing, or people are interested in paying $20,000 or $30,000 for something, when you tell them that you can get it for free, or you can get it for pennies on the dollar, it becomes way more attractive, and the math gets much, much better in terms of you're at the end of the day, you're prepaying for vacations. You're paying an amount of money and an annual fee called a maintenance fee for a week long, or a number of points that equate to a week long vacation at a certain resort or within a certain system. So if you can make that math work, meaning if your maintenance fees are $1,500 and you can't stay at that resort, or you can't stay at Disney, or you can't stay in Vail for a week for less than $1,500 in the rental, then a timeshare makes sense to you. It's cheaper. You save money on vacations. If you can rent for cheaper than that, if you just want to go to Orlando every month and, I can stay in a hotel for 5 days for less than $1,500, I can still in a really nice hotel for $1,500 than I can in buying a timeshare, then timeshare doesn't make sense for you. But the added benefit is in most of the cases, the timeshare is a condominium. It's not a hotel room. You're looking at multiple bedrooms, a full kitchen, usually a balcony at a resort designed for a family to stay at versus, staying at a hotel, which is really nice. It may have 1 or 2 beds and a TV, and that's great for me, or maybe me and my wife, but you add 2 kids in the mix and a hotel room sucks, for anyone who's ever stayed on vacation with kids in a hotel room. So I tell people all the time that once you stay in a multi-bedroom timeshare with children, you will never stay in a hotel again. It just that appeal is there. The full kitchen with the ability to cook meals or save meals. The fact that you have a refrigerator and
refrigerator.
Yes. So I mean, that and alone, we have people that on Tug that will literally set up their Amazon deliveries to their resorts. So and then we'll set up, get shipped from Walmart, so they don't even have to leave the resort, and you have your groceries delivered to you for the entire week. Yeah, it's the kitchen and the full living room and at multiple bedrooms is really where the value is there, and the fact that you can actually get that by buying on the resale market, obviously, for at or less than what it would cost you to buy a hotel room. That is where the value of timesharing comes in, and that's the good. That's why people are. That's why it appeals to people. The bad is how it's sold and how much people pay for it buying directly from the resort. So that making that math make sense, hey, $30,000 for this plus $1,500 a year. Yeah, in 60 years, I break even, assuming that the fees don't go up. Well, I subtract that $30,000 or $20,000 from the start, and now I'm just paying the maintenance fees. Well, man, that's awesome.
Horrible.
That makes more sense to me, and so, people that are in that situation where they want to go, I can't go skiing in Vail for a week for less than $1,500. Can with a timeshare, can't stay in a hotel there. Can't go to Hawaii for a week and stay at, a Hilton resort for less than paying rack rate, can't stay there for $1,500 or even $2,000. So thus buying a timeshare there saves me money. The other common situation or the other common downside is that maintenance fees constantly go up, and they do. I don't know, the price of milk goes up, the price of eggs go up, everything goes up, price of hotels go up. So yes, maintenance fees increase as cost of living goes up, and thus, when you look at this over a period of 10 or 20 years, it's a significant difference. Hey, I bought it, it sounded great at $800 a year back in 1985. Now that it's doubled in 20 years. Now it's $1,600 a year. It's less appealing, but it's likely still cheaper than staying in a hotel or having to buy 2 hotels for your children to stay in. So it's all about the math. If you can't stay where you want to go, or if you can't take a vacation for less than what you would pay in maintenance fees as a timeshare owner, then timesharing saves you money, and thus it makes sense. And you have the added benefit of staying in a multi-bedroom condo. Whereas if it costs more, then you can rent that timeshare from someone else, or you can rent 2 hotels, or rent VRBO, which has become or Airbnb, which has become really kind of the alternative to timesharing. If I can rent a home for a week for $1,500, which it's not a very, it's still on the low end of VRBO and Airbnb, especially in an in-season resort. That's where timesharing starts to make less sense. At the end of the day, it's all about money. How much are you willing to spend for a week-long vacation? Here's what you can do that for a timeshare. Here's what you can do that staying in a hotel. And here's what you can do it renting, a vacation home off Airbnb or something like that. And in almost all situations, when you look at the resale market, that is where timesharing wins more than anything else.
We went to Florida 2 years ago and stayed at a hotel, right? Just like you said, it's, studio side, like two beds, a bathroom, and we were overlooking the pool with a swim bar. It was nice. And then my wife got online, and there's a place down in Orlando called Leaky Tiki
Leaky Tiki. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yep. So it is a timeshare.
It is.
Mm-hmm. But we didn't buy, we booked as a hotel, not as a time, and it happened to be a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom, and man, it was because we brought 5 of us this time instead of just the 3 of us, and it was like, wow, it was really nice, and we're like, oh, we paid $2 extra, I think, like a night for the 7 nights that we, so it was like $14 extra, and we were like, oh, we will go back here. They have 3 pools, they have all, and then we're swimming in a pool, and these people are like, oh yeah, we have a timeshare, we're doing this, and we're like, oh, they didn't know this, and we told them it was like $502 for us for the entire week, and they're like, we paid $1,800 or whatever it is. Like, and I was like, sucker.
Yeah,
You know, so, but so you kind of hit on a couple things. So a million questions. One, all right, so I'm gonna start with that. So if I buy somebody's free timeshare, do I still have the same rights to exit?
It depends on where you buy. It's a great question that you have. You know, in many cases, in many resorts, the resale and resale are the same. You know, in terms of usage, meaning your resale points are the same as retail points. There are systems where that's not the case. You know, you buy something on the resale market, and you actually are stripped some of the quote unquote what they call developer benefits. You know, perks that they give for buying directly from the resort, and that ranges from absolutely trivial stuff to kind of a big deal, you know, stuff that makes the resale side worthless. Diamond Resorts comes to mind as a great example of a stripping of a developer benefits that I wouldn't suggest buying Diamond Resorts on the resale market because of the benefits you lose. And unfortunately, it sucks for Diamond Resorts retail owners because it basically makes their product worthless. You know, they can't sell it, they can't give it away because it's not worth even a resale buyer buying that. Where you look at the other side, like Marriott's and Hilton's, technically you do lose developer benefits, but you can quote unquote rebuy them, meaning you can clean up your points, clean up your resale points and re-enroll them into the Marriott programs. And even that fee that's all Marriott's charging, it's just a money grab, and Hilton as well. You bring them back to developer points. So you can buy Marriott and Hilton on the resale market. And yes, you do lose developer rights, but you can pay to get those back, if that makes sense. And it's still 10 cents, 20 cents, 30 cents on the dollar for what you would pay buying those exact same points from Marriott. So in almost no situation is resale not the answer. But for situations like Diamond, not only, yes, resale is not the answer, but buying retail is not the answer either. You shouldn't buy it. Why would you buy something, you pay 20 grand for something that you not only is worth zero the moment you buy it, you can't even get rid of it because of the way they penalize anyone who would want to buy it from you. So, you know, it's a great question, and it enhances, brings up the fact of why TUG exists in the first place. Is so many people sign a contract, a lifetime contract, signing a deeded piece of real estate and pay $20,000, $30,000 for it without doing a lick of research. You know, they're on vacation. It sounds great. Pool's nice. I love it. This is fantastic. I'll come back here the next 15 years, sign that dotted line. I'll do the research when I get home.
Yep.
And those sales presentations are designed specifically to do that. That is exactly, they've been tailor-made by the most creative and effective marketing and psychological companies paid over 40 years to design these presentations to get you to buy right then and there. By the time you get home to do the research, you can't cancel. You've already lost your cancellation period's over. You know, it's why they sign those presentation. They try and get you to sign up for the sales pitch as early in your stay as possible.
Yeah.
By the time you get home, you don't have any time to cancel. You know, if you got 5 days to cancel and you're by Saturday you're checking out, that's your 5th day, you're done. So
yeah,
you know, it's so important to research what you're buying. You know, Wyndham's a good example of something that I can walk into a Wyndham timeshare today. They're in Orlando, Daytona Beach. They're all over. It's actually a very, very popular system. I can walk into a Wyndham timeshare today and be sold 145,000 points, Wyndham points, for maybe 25 grand. You know, I could probably, if I went and sat there tomorrow, I can buy that same package on the resale market for $1.
Yep.
Absolutely free. Exact same thing. Same. I can get 200,000 points. I can get 300,000 points. You know, it is just a highlight example of even if you're not interested in buying a resale timeshare, this is important for people going to buy new timeshares, because if I bought that today, what do you think it's worth if I tried to sell it next week, or if I tried to sell it next year?
$1, right?
I $1. You know, I'm never going to get the $25,000 back for it. I've essentially paid you $25,000 to enroll in your system. I didn't buy the timeshare for $25,000. I just paid you to join your system because I can get these points from existing owners who want out for free. You know, Marriott's and Hilton's, they retain some resale value, but it's, 10, 15 cents on the dollar compared to 0 cents on the dollar for stuff like that. So, it's not only important to know if you're looking to buy a resale timeshare, looking to buy a timeshare, resale is the answer. But even if you go to a sales pitch and people always say that, hey, there's no way I'm going to buy anything in a sales pitch. I'm going to say no matter what. You know what every timeshare owner currently right now said when they walk into that sales pitch? I'm not buying this timeshare. I said every timeshare owner ever. And so, I've some of the smartest people on the planet, my father included, bought a timeshare and paid full price for it back in the 90s. He likes to say that, well, Google didn't exist back in the 90s.
Right.
And technically it didn't. So you couldn't really go online and research this stuff like you can. And the people that do, type in, is a timeshare a good deal? Well, yeah, Tug shows up on page 1, but it's below like 3 ads. Unfortunately, those ads are usually exit companies. So you think people would kind of get the hint, but I've said for years that, at the invention of the cell phone and then the explosion of the internet, that, people do more research on the next cell phone or big screen TV they're going to buy than they do in buying a $20,000 timeshare.
Yeah.
It is absolutely mind blowing at how many people will sign that contract, or because it's finance and it's technically, fake money. I'm not actually striking a check for this. So credit makes people do silly things, but not doing the research or just assuming that I'll do it when I get home, and not believing that salesman sitting right in front of me, super nice and super friendly, is lying to my face. Everything he says, you can do this and you can go anywhere in the world and you can trade within RCI and II. And yeah, while technically all that stuff is possible, he's likely selling you the most bare bones entry level bottom of the bottom of the rung package that is only going to get you a week in Orlando at, in the middle of summer. The absolute cheapest thing. And then you discover that, hey, well, I needed to have bought 250,000 points, or I needed to have bought 300,000 points to go to, Christmas in Hawaii and stay, or something like Thanksgiving in the Hamptons or wherever you want to go. And then, well, I'm happy to sell you some more time. Yeah.
Right.
So, it's when you have someone that their entire sales model is based on commission, they're going to stretch the truth right up to the line and many times go right over it. And so they will tell you exactly what you need to hear, and they know what's effective. And they know exactly how you are going to respond to certain stimuli, and how they will phrase that to get you to sign on the bottom line. And it ranges. We've heard it all. Guilt trips, or
Gosh, yes.
how are you taking money out of my kid's pocket by wasting time like this? Or you're not stupid enough to not sign this deal, right? This is the there are actually companies that specialize in profiling the person coming in, whether their age, race, married, and so on and so forth, and will give that person have a printout of what's the most likely strategy that this person's going to fall for, and that's they will start with.
I'm glad you validated it, because we were talking about that on one of our things, and I was like, I'm telling you, these people look and they say, hey, you're an overweight white male with a kid. Like, they're putting John, who is this guy, like this is what he is. Oh, hey, you walk in with your Louis Vuitton, you walk in with that, bam, you have Stacy, who is also looking, like, you have this. Like, these people know exactly, and I'm telling you, these are the best salespeople out there in the world.
100%.
They could be. I'm surprised they're not all billionaires because of how good this training is, right? Because it is the number. Like, I tell him all the time, I was like, I can be a timeshare salesman.
Oh, you could,
minus the fact of knowing what I'm doing to people.
Yeah, having
right?
a lie. That's you
right.
have to have completely zero morals.
But plain and simple is like, this is like, I'm building the biggest dream of your entire life, and you're doing it. All I'm doing is asking the right questions the right way. And it is, if I didn't do anything, that would be my career, right? So my next question, quick, you've kind of diverted both. It's a loaded question, so there's no correct answer. What is the best timeshare to buy if you're going to, and like, what is the worst, right? So like, again, that's so broad now that we've talked about like how to exit, who gives you the best points and stuff like that. There's so much. Do you have it to where it's like, hey, what is the best? What is the worst?
I get that question all the time, to be perfectly honest, and the answer is always the same. Well, the best for you is not best for me.
Right.
Is it best value, best timeshare system, best resale value. People will categorically, the answer that most people will say is Disney Vacation Club is the quote unquote best timeshare out there. It's also the most expensive. So, that obviously makes it not the best for a huge category of people. I mean, when we're talking expensive, we're talking $1,000 a night expensive type thing.
Really?
Yes. So Disney Vacation Club to buy Disney points, and they also retain a significant part of their resale value. Disney is just so far out of the mold. It's almost not even worth talking about in terms of the average timeshare. You look at
Disney,
here's the 99. Yeah, here's
Disney
the
has
99%, and then here's Disney. And so
Right.
when people like to use, well, I use Disney as an example, it's just ridiculous because there's just absolutely no comparison between Disney, even Hilton, even Marriott's just don't compare. They're on a completely separate tier. Now, I will say that I've stayed at a Disney resort. I've stayed at nicer Marriotts, but they obviously weren't on site at Disney. You know, the perks that you get, and Disney people are fanatics. So you have this brand that is just money in most cases just doesn't apply to Disney people. The concept of spending that much money, there are just an overwhelming number of people who are just willing to throw whatever they want at staying at a Disney timeshare. And I will say it was cool, being able to take the monorail from your resort to right to the gates of Disney. And is it $1,000 a night cool? Oh, well, it's for some people.
Right.
I did it. I was happy with the stay, but in terms of best for your average someone looking to get into timesharings, I will say that Marriott's and Hilton's are almost equivalent. Those two companies really kind of brought legitimacy to the industry, is that everyone knows Marriott and Hilton. You know those brands. That it's not going to go out of business anytime soon. You're not going to wake up in the morning and then Marriott's folded or so on and so forth. They're propped up, even though the timeshare arms of those are completely separate companies than the hotel side, but it's still the same brand. So those two are very, very popular systems, and then they do retain some resale value, but it's still pennies on the dollar compared to what you buy directly from them. And those two systems are universally regarded as extremely popular. You're always, in most cases, the vast majority of the time, you're going to be happy with the resort you're staying at. Now, every system has a world-class, top-tier, 5-star, 10 out of 10 rated resort, and there are dumps at Marriott. It's just how it is. There's certainly some rooms that are the last to be renovated, or and then you could get lucky and stay in one that just got renovated last year and it's got state-of-the-art everything. And but all of those, you're looking at these resorts are thousands of rooms in size, and some of them in Orlando are 2,000 and 3,000 rooms. And I don't care how much money you have, you can't maintain all of that to top tier, the best possible marble countertops, and and so on, especially for something that gets used 52 weeks a year or 51 weeks a year. I personally, Marriott and Hilton's, I have no problem telling people that those are systems that you can buy confidently in and know you're going to enjoy that product. Again, assuming you do the research and knowing exactly what the planning required, and everything's going to points. I hate to get off on a tangent, but the industry has gone to points. It's just that's just the way it is. And it's just because it's easy for the industry to manipulate that. It's easy for me to sell a number of points and adjust the value of those points, and so on and so forth. And
I think that's my issue, is the points aspect, because we were talking, and I actually like the week thing. You're guaranteed this week, this period of time, this is what it is, versus like, hey, here's a hopes and dreams, but actually we're booked, you can't do it. And it's like, man, I would almost be okay with buying a timeshare if I knew exactly what I had when I had it, right? Like,
and you can still buy those. They're called a fixed week, is what that called.
Sure.
And that's how timeshares were sold originally. A fixed week, you bought the same week at the same resort year in and year out. And those still exist because, again, it's all deeded real estate. Yep. Now, 10 years ago, there was a huge push to go to points as the point system started to come into favor, because today's buyer is not into fixed week system. It's just not popular. Today's millennials and Gen X and whatever the terms are these days. But today's buyer wants flexibility. They don't want to go to the same resort every year. They don't want to go for a full week. They want to stay for long weekends. They want to go to different resorts all over the country, all over the world. And the industry shifted to accommodate that. That said, you have tens of thousands of deeded real estate for fixed weeks, and they couldn't make them go away. So they made an effort to, quote unquote, upgrade those people to points, or as many as they could. And many people just flat out said no. And it's just great because they marketed it as, they charged people to give up their deeds and own points. And so it was a huge cash grab by the industry to quote unquote, here's the latest and greatest thing, and we'll only charge you $3 or $4 grand to quote unquote upgrade. And it's just a fleecing of the industry. But there are still plenty of fixed weeks out there, and especially people that own holiday weeks like Christmas week or New Year's or Thanksgiving or Labor Day or stuff like that. Those things are worth mints, because the people, even if they don't use them, they can rent them out for ungodly amounts of money, because you can't get a hotel there. Myrtle Beach at spring break or Daytona Beach at spring break, you can't get within 10 miles of that place without spending hundreds of dollars a night. So the fixed week still exists because they can't just end those people's deeds. They can't force those people to sell. but it's just not sold anymore. It's rare to find a resort that I can't think of any of them other than selling something that someone is trying to get rid of. An existing owner already has. But it's still there. The floating week is a little more popular, a little more common. Whereas you get a range of weeks within the year, 1 to 52, or maybe it's, you just get summer weeks of week 14 to 30 or something like that, where you reserve based on availability one of those weeks in that range. You're guaranteed one, but you're not guaranteed that particular week unless you, obviously there's a time limit at which you need to log in and make the reservation and so on and so forth. And then there's the point system where you have nothing until you log in and try and reserve something with 100,000 points. And the great thing about it is the point systems are nothing's one-to-one. Like Disney points are measured in the tens. Like 50 Disney points is huge. 100 Disney points is probably cost you $50,000 for 100 Disney points to buy that retail. Whereas I could get 500,000 Wyndham points for $1,000 or something like that.
Yes.
And so there's just no one-to-one there. Marriott's are in the thousands, like 3,000 Marriott points is a lot, but it's not a lot of WorldMark points. Just great examples of how there's just everyone's doing their own things. There's really no comparison there. But the point system provides the flexibility, and it's so much easier to sell because you're like, hey, you own these points and you can go anywhere in the Hilton system, or you can go anywhere inside Marriott anytime you want. Christmas in Hawaii, done. Skiing in Vail, done. You just sign up. And yes, while that's technically true, it would rely on no one else being part of the system to book those weeks. And so people find, obviously too late that, hey, I'm not able to book Christmas in Hawaii. Well, yeah, that's because that was taken 6 months ago when you didn't log in at the opening of your 1-year window. But all those people that know that did log in, and there was probably a fight for it even there at midnight of the 12-month window. And so you have access to everything, but everything is only what's left after it's been, the bones have been picked clean. So it's extremely important to understand that before buying, because that's not what you're told in the sales presentation by any way, shape, or form. You're told you buy these points, you have access. It's like freaking flyer miles. There's planes going everywhere. You want to go to Dallas, you can go to Dallas. No problem. Planes flying every day. There's and unfortunately the reality is just much different situation. So those three flavors of timeshares, while not so much sold anymore, you won't see any active resort selling fixed or floating weeks. They're still available because of the existing owners. So many of them own them, and as they die or pass on or transfer to their kids don't want it or just no longer use their timeshare, those come up for sale just like anything else. But the industry by and large has all shifted to points. Everything is now sold as points. You couldn't probably go in and buy a fixed week anywhere that I can think of at this point. But if it does interest you, I tell people, people interested in timesharing, I tell them to rent. That most people have no idea you can rent a timeshare from an existing owner. You can rent it on Tug, you can rent it on eBay, you can rent it on a variety of other websites. I can give people free promotion for their own businesses, but you can rent timeshares from owners, usually right around what the maintenance fees cost, because people just rent them out to break even. Hey, I'm not using it this year. I don't want to lose all my money. Here's here I'll ask $1,200 for it. That's what my maintenance fees cost. And so you get to go enjoy that resort for a week for the same price as you would pay owning it, and you don't have to own. Obviously you can't go there next year without renting it again, so you don't have that what you mentioned. You want the stability of knowing you can go year in and year out, but you have the flexibility. It's unlimited flexibility. I want to go to Orlando this week. I want to go to Vail next week. I want to go to Myrtle Beach next year, and so on and so forth. You can always rent. Anywhere there's a timeshare, there are timeshare rentals because these owners will actively market these. Obviously it's nowhere near the availability of going to Priceline or hotels.com and being able to pick a hotel anyway, any night, anything you want. But again, people that timeshares work for are forward planners. They're people that plan ahead to make these vacations, and that's where the money really comes in savings wise. If you're the person that needs to go last minute to places, timesharing is just not for you. So I mean, you should just turn off the podcast now or wait till the next episode. It's just, you're never going to enjoy the value and the benefits of time sharing if you're not a detail oriented planner. If you're I want to go somewhere next week, well, all right, it's possible, but you're just not going to get anything.
And that's why because I'm a last minute person, unless it's completely booked, where it's like, hey, I guarantee that I'm going this week. Otherwise, literally, we just look and we're like, all right, yeah, we have this time available. Great. Like, say, let's go. When we go to Florida, it's somewhere between November and February, wherever the cheapest flights fall in, and we can get a cheap hotel. Like,
you have having to fly, it makes it a little bit harder to kind of coordinate those items, because you reserve something and then flights for whatever reason are twice as expensive as they should be, or vice versa. You book a cheap flight and you can't find a hotel anywhere. I'm in Jacksonville, which is roughly 2 hours north of Orlando, for lack of a better term. For you, we have a section of our website or forums called Last Minute Rentals, where people can only ask $115 a night for these timeshares, and you can go anywhere pretty much, but it's all within the next 45 days. So I rent off my own site all the time. People post that stuff, especially Orlando rentals, where I can, that's check in on Friday. I can just take the kids, hop in the car and go.
You are that guy.
I have rented rooms for $500 for a week-long rental for $500, and we've only gone Friday, Saturday, and Sunday because it's still cheaper than renting a hotel room. So it's empty the last 4 days. I check in. Even at $600 or $700, we'll make it a 4-day or a long weekend. You don't have to stay the entire week, but because it's so cheap, I hop in the car and go. Those are our impromptu SeaWorld trips, or impromptu. I'm not gonna plan a Disney trip at the last second, but going to places that Legoland and stuff like that, where you can actually do some sort of last minute stuff. The last minute rental section is by far the most value you'll ever get out of a vacation. I mean, you get 2 bedrooms in Hawaii and Gatlinburg and all the popular locations that someone likely booked, and then their travel arrangements just exploded. Whether or not they had an illness or something happened, and I'm going to lose this. I've already paid for it, and so they're just trying to get some of their money back. And we impose the $115 a night, which is $1,000 a week or something like that. That's the limit we impose to be able to post there. So it's always a bargain, meaning you're not having people posting $300 and $400 a night rentals there, and that's go to the marketplace for stuff like that. But for the last minute stuff, I mean, especially for people that just aren't tied with kids or aren't tied by school schedules and stuff like that, the bargains there are absolutely mind-blowing. I can't stay in a 1-bedroom hotel in most places for $115 a night. It's just that those days are gone. I traveled most of my life before I took over, Doug, and $100 a night used to be a pretty good deal for a hotel. Now it's just unheard of. You don't get that stuff anymore. But last minute rentals and getting that stuff, renting a timeshare, is where the value is. I personally tell my friends who are interested in timeshares, don't buy a timeshare. Just don't. You just don't have the knowledge. You can spend months researching it and then buy a timeshare, but if you just want to go and enjoy it, I would even pay more to go stay at a beautiful timeshare, and I've done it in the past, to not have to worry about buying it, to not have to go through the process and not have to go to the obligation of owning in a whole separate timeshare system. I'll spend $2,600 to stay for 3 days at Disney type thing, to not have to buy Disney points so that I own that. I don't mind doing that, because it allows me to experience the timeshare. It's still close to what the maintenance fees would cost for something like that. And, I get all of the benefits and absolutely none of the downsides. I don't have to sit through the sales presentation. I don't have to worry about the maintenance fees going up. I don't have to worry about special assessments, but I still enjoy that week at the timeshare. Obviously, the downside is I need to plan a little bit more. I need to be more flexible with where I need to go. If my range is Florida, well, that's easy to fill. If my range is I have to go to Breckenridge during Sundance or wherever the heck that particular thing is, well, that's obviously timeshare is probably not going to fit for that. So the wider your scope is, the much more likely you are to get an amazing timeshare rental at that location at a resort. And there really is no. It's not just the low end stuff that's posted there. I mean, people will post very, very nice, expensive. I mean, I've seen stuff in 3 bedrooms in Hawaii go because, hey, something happened. We can't travel. Got COVID, especially during COVID time. And we can't go. And but people can't take advantage of that. Even a $700 2-bedroom in Hawaii, because getting a flight into Hawaii in 30 days.
$2,200
Yeah,
bucks.
so, but you're like, man, that'd be amazing for someone who lived in Hawaii. But looking at the rental market, and many people will look at the last minute rental stuff and let that dictate where they want to go. Hey, this guy's offering Gatlinburg. We always wanted to go to Gatlinburg. That's a month away. He's asking $800 for a week for a 2-bedroom. That sounds like a great family vacation. They'll plan around that extremely cheap vacation. And the fact that if you're booking at a Marriott or a Wyndham or a Diamond or something like that, a name brand system, you're not really, not really worried about checking into a dump. And Tug provides reviews that you can see if it's something that you're probably going to really, really like, or something that you just going to survive. So it really is the best way to maximize the value for your vacation dollar. I always tell people that timeshare rentals are where it's at. And unfortunately, some people just need that sort of need the ownership so that it forces them to take vacations, which is one of the main reasons timeshares are sold. People are looking for, I need to go on vacation, otherwise I'm going to lose this money. And thus I hear it all the time that, hey, I've taken a vacation every year since we bought our timeshare, and I used to not take vacations. So just in that, you can't put a price on that and can't put a value on that. But for me, and it sounds like for you, for taking your family on an impromptu vacation, timeshare rentals, it sounds like it's right up your alley. And people always look at me funny when I say, hey, why don't you rent a timeshare? And I had no idea I could.
I'm already looking.
You're gonna
Oh, he's
really
already on the
deals
website.
constantly, aren't you?
Yeah, where do I go on this?
If you go on the forums, Tug BBS forums.
You go to forums, okay.
Yeah, the forums. There's a last minute section on the marketplace as well. It's just not limited price wise, meaning they can post anything they want. But the specific last minute discounted rentals is on our forum. So go to Tug BBS forums, and it's the 4th or 5th one down. It says last minute rentals offered. Let's see if I can go there as well. I'll follow y'all.
Yeah, sorry. It's kind of funny to me because I'm sitting here like, oh man, I'm gonna go into all right. Owner forums. Here we go.
Yep. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 one down. Last minute discounted timeshare rentals offered. So here's Pigeon Forge. So you can go to Pigeon Forge this weekend for how much they ask. They should put the price in there, but sometimes they don't. You always know it's got to be. So they're asking. It's just a 2 nights. So $200 for 2 nights at Pigeon Forge this weekend. If you want to go to Pigeon Forge, weekend costs $200 for a 2-bedroom.
What day is it?
Williams.
Yeah. Say I'm over here like shit. I might end up in Pigeon Forge this weekend.
Yeah, there's Orlando for $550. You get a 2-bedroom in Orlando next weekend for $550 at Star
Island. All right, you sold me on this. So all right, it's your website, and I'll let you flaunt this because I'm really enjoying this episode. Sure. So it's tugbbs.com.
Yeah, Tug BBS actually came from the original bulletin board on Prodigy. That's where the BBS came from back.
Okay,
bulletin board service.
That has remained. Tug BBS is the free forum. So we have always provided. Tug started as a free resource for owners, and the forums exist. Obviously, the membership side of Tug, we do charge $15, but it's optional.
It's 15 a year.
$15 a year, yes. To post reviews, and the only thing you need to membership for is to post reviews or post listings. Everything else is free. The forums have always been a free resource for owners to get help about their timeshares. That was something my father was very adamant about, and it's something I'm happy to take on. And we don't ever charge for access to the forums. You can always get the help you need on Tug completely free. And if a lot of people just choose to support the site, and $15 for membership, it's easily the best value. We're tracking. We started tracking a while back how many people we confirmed found us after buying a timeshare. Oh, what are you gonna go ahead?
No, sorry. I'm gonna absolutely fall in love with your site because of how cheap this is.
You're welcome.
And my buddy goes to the Wisconsin Dells. We live in Michigan. Mm-hmm. Wisconsin's not far.
Yep.
And but he goes to the Dells every year, and
Dells are nice.
I'm looking at one right now, and it's 6 nights for $600, and he goes to Great Wolf Lodge, and he's spending $450 a night, and he's like, we stay 2 nights at the Great Wolf Lodge, and then we go to a different hotel. And I'm like, yeah, but if you can go to this for $600, you're gonna have now I'm gonna get him to I'm gonna get you some shit.
But, it's the rentals. It's a win-win because all of those people are members of the site. There, it is important that there are scams that exist on the rental side. It just happens
on your site.
There are people that just like Craigslist. We don't patrol. We don't verify all the rentals. That's just a forum. Anyone can sign up. Now we do have a checklist to go through for any rentals to verify before any money changes hands. Generally, if it's the scammers are all new members and they didn't pay to join Tug, and they're offering an amazingly great deal at amazing resort for an amazing price, and they're literally just asking you, and they'll ask you to pay for PayPal friends and family or Venmo, or looking at the big picture, it's a scam, but people are generally
I'm dumb.
by the deal. They're like, oh my God, I can get $500 for Hawaii. And they'll just send $500. And then, so there are ways to verify these rentals before changing. And if you're looking at someone who's been a Tug member for, the site goes back 15 years, 20 years, if they've been on the site for 10 years, that's a really long con that someone's running to try and scam you out of $500. So
when I go on here,
yeah,
I don't know if it says, so people have usernames. If I click on their username or something, will it tell me?
Yeah, it says right below their name, like this always traveling that joined, last year, and they're fairly active on the forum. They've had, 60 messages they posted. Even if someone that would be, hey, they're a Tug member, they paid to join Tug, they've been around for over a year, they've actually posted on the forums. Whereas I go look at someone other guy, I'm sure there's some on here that that guy's been on here since 2010, so that's probably okay. He's not a scammer being on there for 12 years. But you see some people that they just joined last week and they're offering just this amazing deal. And here's one. This person's been a member since 2006, so I'd be okay with that. So that's just one way. The other way, we obviously tell people to have call them up on the phone. Before I'm going to send you money, I want to talk to you. And usually that's it. They'll refuse or they'll reach out. There's so many red flags that the scammers can't avoid on these rentals. I also want to see the reservation confirmation. Send it to me, forward it to me, black out your contact details if you need to, but I need to see that you have this room reserved. That you're in. The other things, some people will ask you to send a deposit, $100, and then they'll put it in your name, and then you send the confirmation. At that point, that's a way to limit your riskiness. Your risk, but there's a comfort level that has to happen on both sides, both the the person renting to you, because they're renting to a total stranger too. You could have some big house party going on and just completely trash the room, or ask for a refund afterwards, and so on and so forth. So Tug is not, we're not backing these rentals. You're not going through a clearinghouse or anything like that. You're dealing with another person. It's just a person to person transaction. So it's important to feel comfortable with that person, and it's important for both sides to be comfortable with the transaction before it goes through. And we always tell people that there's always some red flag that raises, whether they want you to send the check to a different address, or, hey, make the check out to this different guy who's not me and who's not the reservation name, or all of the classic scams exist because it's an easy way to get money. We weed them out as much as we can. And as soon as they're reported, we'll delete them. But I don't want to give people the warm and fuzzy that everything's guaranteed. You can get scammed on VRBO stuff all the time too. Obviously they back it with, because you're paying VRBO and they're a third party. We don't have that option, but it's balanced by the fact that these people are, in most cases, 99% of them, these people are legitimate owners just trying to get a couple bucks back for the timeshare they can't use.
I'll tell you my Florida story quick.
Sure.
We booked on booking.com, booking.fu. So, we have our flights, and it's Michigan, so it's snowing like crazy. It got delayed. They actually ended up getting us out, which was really nice. We booked our car. We ended up landing 11:30 at night, right? Well, the rental car company closed at 10. So we're trying to get a hold of these people, and it's like, hey, after hours, call this number, straight to voicemail. It wasn't a scam or anything. We just couldn't use this damn company. So we're talking to booking, which takes forever to get online. And so we drive to the hotel, which, a couple, but it is 1-something in the morning. And then all of a sudden this lady's like, we don't see your reservation. Like, no, we have it. Here it is. And she goes, well, no, you had 2 of them and both of them got canceled because that's weird that you have 2 and this and that. And then she looks at me and she's like, well, our system goes down at 2 a.m. And here I've been talking to this lady for 45 minutes. And I was like, look, lady, I don't give 2 shits what's going on right now. I am exhausted now.
Yep.
I've been up for hours upon hours. Give me a hotel room. I don't care what the cost is for the first night, and we'll figure this. And then all of a sudden, I was very nice to her, but I was pissy with the people on booking. And all of a sudden, this lady goes, well, tell you what, just here, I'll give you the room, and then we'll reach out to booking. We'll figure it out ourselves. And I was like, you could have done this an hour ago.
Yeah,
Come on. So like that's the stuff that scares me. Is like, hey, if I book this and then get there and then my reservation is not actually a thing, I'm gonna be pissed. But
and so to mitigate that, we have best practices. I never advise someone just to jump into rentals. There are a variety of articles on our site about renting a timeshare, how to verify rentals. For me personally, just again, I mentioned I traveled almost 50 weeks a year as when I worked as a Microsoft consultant back pre 9/11 days. So my travel situation was way different back then. Calling the resort, you generally, before you're doing anything, many months in advance or in these, you're going to be sent a confirmation that has your name on it. It shows, the resort, the check-in date, the check-in time, contact details. And it takes a phone call to the resort. I mean, the resort is not going to be working with the scammer, So you're calling the resort saying, hey, I've got a reservation 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is the owner, John Q. Smith. They put my name on it, John Doe. I'm just calling. We're flying in next Monday. I'm just calling to confirm. And the resort, yeah. So is there a risk that the person could suddenly, the owner could cancel that and do? I mean, it's possible. I've never heard of anyone doing that. None of the legitimate side. Almost all of the scams revolve around someone offering something they don't own, meaning they will contact. They're very, very slick. They will actually contact an owner at a very, very expensive resort. For example, I'll just say Maui Ocean Club or something like that, and who is offering something for rent. And they'll get their contact details, and then they'll offer that exact same rental on another website, claiming to be this person. So they have a legitimate reservation confirmation. They have but the names just don't match, and the emails don't match. And so that's why when we say, hey, call the person on the phone, verify that you're talking to the actual owner of the resort. It eliminates that possibility. You call the resort, hey, this, Malcolm A. Johns or whatever told me all this. Well, that's not the name of the owner, and the red flags are there. Unfortunately, many people just kind of ignore them because of the bargain they are being offered. I don't want to give you the impression that the site is full of scams or that renting is some of those are illegitimate, but it happened in the past. But in every situation that I've ever come across, when someone say, hey, I rented something off your site and it turned out to be a scam, and well, hey, forward me the emails and forward me the contacts. And it was from day one, you could see that, the I don't want to, sound terrible, the broken English, or, hey, this is a guy offering, hey, it's my friend's timeshare or something like that. Or, hey, I need you to send the PayPal to this, or I need you to wire transfer this to my agent or something. There are just so many red flags. Well, why did you do that? We even warn about that specifically in oh, well, it was just a really good deal. I'm sorry. I thought, you shake your head, it's one thing to not do any verification. It's another to have these obvious red flags and ignore them and then send them money. And so that's why, for me personally, I will require the owner to, I'll send them $100 deposit. Say, hey, I'm legitimate. This is what I want, even though I'm the owner of the company, but whatever. I'll send you $100. You put it reservation in my name and send me a screenshot, because that way, if you're going to scam me for $100, you're probably not really. That's not what the scammers are looking for. So,
right.
But if I'm willing to give you $100, you'll put it in my name. At that point, I'll send you the balance. There's no way for a scammer really to log into someone else's account, make that reservation, and change the name to my name. So that kind of eliminates the bulk of that. And then I have no problem sending a balance. You send me an email from the resort that shows that I'm now on the guest list to check in. I'm comfortable sending you the balance of payment. Some people will offer refund deals. If you have cancellation, obviously they're limited in what they can offer, because they lose the money if you cancel at the last minute. If they're not able to find another renter. Some people say, hey, I'll offer you 100% refund. I'll put it back on Tug. If someone rents it, I'll give you your money back. But there's no set rules in the rental market. So you have to be comfortable with dealing with that person. That person has to be comfortable with dealing with you. If they're only, they make you send money via wire transfer and you're not comfortable with that, well, hey, that's the end of that transaction. Sorry, enjoy. And some people will take a check. Some other options are to send an actual postal money order, which makes it a federal crime if it becomes a scam or something like that. It gets a whole nother set of people involved in trying to recover that money. Venmo is required, provides no scam protection at all. Once the money is sent via Venmo, it's gone. It doesn't matter if that person is. And so a lot of people require that. You got to really be comfortable with the person to send that. PayPal is kind of a little bit of mix. While they offer fraud protection, in many of their agreements, they exclude timeshares and vacation rentals from that
Really?
protection policy. So it's very important that you look at that. And many times you can still file a dispute, and the dispute process will go through. I imagine if it went to court, then PayPal could technically claim that little disclaimer on there. But it really comes down to the phone call for me is where it's at.
Yeah, phone call's huge.
I can if I have a phone call with someone I talk to for 15 minutes, I have a pretty good idea if this is on the up and up or not, or if there's any alarm bells ringing, I'll just move on, because it's just the deals are there. You're not really required to. It's not a once in a lifetime thing that you're passing up here. So, going through the verification process weeds out every scam that I've ever seen, and so nothing is 100% perfect. You can always. There's probably people out there a lot smarter than me that can figure out a way to circumvent those, but those people are probably not scamming timeshare owners. They're after bigger fish, and so we've been doing this for a long time, and the last minute rental section has been there for a long time, and it's been one of the most popular sections of the website. Another important thing is once you've rented from someone successfully, you're comfortable with them and they're comfortable with you. Many of these people that post in there, they have huge numbers of points and the millions of points in some of these systems, and you can reach out to them and say, hey, I'm thinking about going to Myrtle Beach, or I'm thinking about going to Daytona, or I'm thinking about going to Vail, or like, what can you get me on these dates? And they will log into the system, and and now you have essentially a conduit into the ownership in that system, because you have now made it a relationship with that particular renter who can have access to everything with a huge number of points that would cost you thousands and thousands of dollars to purchase yourself, on top of the annual maintenance fees. But now you can just rent from them because you've had a successful rental. You went there once before. There's two people that come to mind, me specifically, that I will reach out to whenever I want to go to Orlando or Daytona or something like that. In Florida, Clearwater's another nice within the Wyndham system that I'm very comfortable with. And she's very comfortable just immediately making a reservation, knowing that I'm going to pay her, and so on and so forth. So establishing those relationships, is it going to work out every time? No, but it really only needs to work out every so often for you to save an absolute fortune on what you would normally do. So this is one of the main reasons why our website, we've had people on there that have literally been members for 25 years.
To be clear, you don't own any timeshares, correct?
I do. Yes. No. I actually do. My father.
You
owns,
do?
Yeah. No. I.
Wow.
I personally haven't purchased them. The family trust has 2 timeshares left in it. Both were purchased by my father. So we actually own in Marriott Vacation Club. So it's an ownership in Hilton Head. Although I haven't been since I was a kid. Hilton Head doesn't really appeal to me all that much. Don't remember it appealing to me a whole lot as a kid. I have 2 small kids. It definitely doesn't appeal to them. But it's a great trader. I mean, it's a beautiful resort. It can be. We used it to trade. Me and my wife took a honeymoon in St. Thomas, so we traded for another Marriott. And it had this huge 3-bedroom overlooking the bay in St. Thomas for just us 2 on our honeymoon. It was a ridiculously oversized timeshare, but we do own a timeshare and still do, and have no complaints on it, but don't actually use it to go to the location that we own at. So. And then that's likely a case with many owners, especially with the new development of the point system, and where you can have the flexibility to exchange or trade into other resorts. There are just more popular locations for me personally and my family than Hilton Head.
Well, yeah, you've been there, done that. So I say, and you're not far. Jacksonville to Hilton Head's what, 4 hours?
Hilton Head's probably 6 or so. I would say maybe, but Orlando being 2 hours away, and with 2 small kids, it's really, if we're going somewhere, it's going to be the beach or it's going to be Orlando. I
couldn't believe how many people. So like the first hotel we stayed at, awesome swim up bar. It was really, really big pool. We're from Michigan. So like when you guys have 70-degree weather in December, you're wearing jackets like nut jobs. And I'm down there in sandals and a freaking ripped off t-shirt going, oh yeah, baby. But like the people are like, oh, we're using the hot tub just because like we wanted to go get away. And I was like, you're weird. But it's normal like for you guys to like stay local and hotel hop up here.
Absolutely.
Hotel hopping's, granted we have
boring,
right? Like we have Great Wolf Lodge and stuff like that, but like nothing like what you have down there.
When they built that stupid water park at the one on 68th Street, that was done saying, let's go stay there. I'm like, no, let's stay. It's 5 minutes from my house. I'm not staying there.
Yeah.
They're building a Great Wolf Lodge here in Florida, so no one will have to go there. So I saw a big giant indoor water park in Florida. I don't. I mean, maybe I guess no mosquitoes. I guess that would be a draw.
Right.
There are just so many water parks in Florida. It's just, I mean, you like throw a rock and hit one.
You mentioned SeaWorld. We go to SeaWorld Aquatica because we get like $30 tickets, and for most of them, right? So it's like, oh heck yeah, we're doing. And I love. I tell everybody this. I love Aquatica. Okay. And when you talk to a Florida person, they hate Aquatica. Okay, it's assholes to elbows from what I understand
it's
in the summer.
Yep. No,
I go in December and I get this lazy river that pulls my fat ass all the way around here, and it just keeps going. And I feel like the richest person you've ever met, because they're like, this place holds, let's just say 50,000 people, and at most in like December time, there's 200 people in this whole park. Like there's nobody there. We upgrade to a cabana because it's, you know, $12 and it cost, and I get all the free water. But I'm sitting here just going, do we get this whole park to ourselves? So we have Michigan's Adventure here, Cedar Point type thing. When you go on a water slide, you wait 10 hours to go down the one water slide.
After you walk up for 30 minutes.
Right, but okay, the only negative about it is the fact that there is no line, so you have to walk your fat ass up 17 flights of stairs without a stop. When there's a line, at least you have a stopping point.
Yeah,
like, all right,
rest area.
Two steps. This one, you're just like, whoo, fuck, I'm out of, like, I have an 8-year-old that just runs, and she's like all the way up. But granted, she passes out at the end of the day, and I'm like, all right, I'm halfway up, and I tell, like, she doesn't understand that dad can't make it all the way up without stopping. But I'm like, hey, come take a look at this view halfway up here. All right, kid, let's make it up. You know, and my wife and I have it where she walks up, and then they start, you know, they get up and go down. I'm already walking up because then the kid just runs and catches up me to go down the tube. But dude, Aquatica, anybody, that's a shout out to them. Go there. It's the greatest time of your life. The best lazy river I've ever been in. Again, you know me.
I love a lazy river.
I don't go in the pool. I don't want to be in water, but in Florida, I'm always in the water.
Lazy rivers are high on my list. Well, I think you'd like Wyndham Bonnet Creek. If you're looking for, you're going to visit on the site. Bonnet Creek it's probably one of the biggest resorts. It's right at the entrance of Disney. It's not in Disney, but it's right at the entrance. And there's so many rooms at that Wyndham that the rentals are available almost every week of the year for super cheap. And they have like 600 pools there. I don't know, that's ridiculous, but I mean, they have a lot of pools, and there's the lazy river at almost each building, and then the restaurants and the bars are right there. So you don't have to get out of the water in many cases to that was one thing I liked about the St. Thomas Resort, the Marriott there, is the walk up, the swim up bar. You don't have to leave the water to get a nice frosty beverage, and just put it on my tab, please. The Underhill.
That's my favorite thing on the cruise is the swim up bar.
But Wyndham Bonnet Creek we try to stay there whenever. I mean, it's just a gigantic family resort, and the pools and the lazy rivers are really the attraction there. If you're not going to a park to enjoy that and just walk right in, all the entrances or the zero, whatever they call that, zero entrance, where you don't actually step down, you just kind of slowly, like being on a beach.
Oh yeah.
I personally enjoy Bonnet Creek, and the fact that it's just such a large resort, and there's so many rentals there that you can stay there at almost any time you want to for next to nothing. They pop up almost all the time, and especially if you do develop a relationship with a Wyndham owner or something like that, like I personally have, that be able to get there. They're just, there's almost always availability, and it's a really, really nice resort, and I think it definitely sounds like something that's up his alley, especially with a family. To the 2 and 3 bedrooms, you can get the right ones. You can watch the fireworks at night, and so it's Orlando. I will say that never buy in Orlando. If there's some more parting tips to people, Orlando there are more timeshares in Orlando than anywhere else in the world combined. So more rooms there. There's no reason to buy in Orlando. You can always trade or rent in Orlando. So if you're going to buy a timeshare, buy somewhere else. Just don't buy in Orlando. They're the most difficult to get rid of. They're the ones that are worth the least, and it's just absolutely not worth buying or taking over, doing anything with Orlando timeshare.
Well, I feel like you've already answered this, but I'm going to ask it anyways. So is there any benefit to buying in front of the person that's trying to sell you this thing, or is there zero benefit?
Never buying is absolutely 100% no. Do not buy at a sales presentation, period. I don't care what they say.
Not even if they give
what-
me free tickets to Disney.
you're gonna get free tickets anyway. You get the free tickets anyway, even if you don't buy. So the free tickets are not contingent on you buying. So the gift, you always get the gift whether you say yes or no. And I will say that, there's no reason to buy there. If you go home, and I tell this to people every time, if you go home and do your research and you find out that that was the deal for you, and for what you won't, but if for some magical reason it was, that was the deal. You call that salesman up, I guarantee he gave you his card. And he will literally reach through the phone with a pen and let you sign the contract, a month later down the road, and no problem whatsoever. Despite the only one time, or my manager, this was just turned in by someone last week, and my manager didn't let me, told me I wasn't supposed to offer it, but I just like you so much, and this is perfect for you, and every other ridiculous nonsense that works, because they wouldn't say it if it didn't work. But no, 100%, there's zero reason and zero benefit to buying at the resort while on vacation. If you want to buy retail, that's fine. There are plenty of people that buy retail. It's $10 billion a year in sale industry. Clearly people do buy it. And everyone knows someone who just won't buy a used car. I mean, I got friends who they'll buy a new car every time. They will not.
Really?
It's 100,000 car. It's 100,000 miles. I'm buying a new car. Doesn't matter. I will never buy a used car. And there are people like that appeal of buying, knowing that you got the latest and greatest, even though it's not. There are just people like that, and that is the appeal that they reinforce when you're at those meetings. Going back to the tailoring the meeting to the guest. It's funny. There was a company that they have a big timeshare convention every year. It's called Resort Art of World or something like that. But there was a company that probably still is. I haven't been in years, but a company that specifically sold their product as you fed in the information about the salesperson and they spat out and they would actually have digital photographs on the walls that would change to match your family. Or if it was a Hispanic family coming in, they would change from a white family to a Hispanic family on the wall on the beach or something like that. And the colors would change. And so everything about your experience in the room, the light would change based on the input of your profile. And they know all that before you when you check in. They know you're, especially if you're on a tour, because you had to fill out all that information to get that free or $99 weekend stay or something like that in agreement to participate in the sales presentation. But no, 100%, they are trying to get you to buy, and almost all of that money that you're paying is for a product that's worth, essentially nothing for most situations. You're paying for that salesperson's commission, you're paying for his manager's commission, you're paying for the marketing, you're paying for all of the free $200 gift cards that they give out for people that don't buy. All of that is what you're paying that $20,000 for, not to buy the timeshare. The money that they make in the timeshare industry is off the maintenance fees and off the financing for you buying that stuff. So
they make money off maintenance fees? I can't believe.
Yeah, but at least you're getting value of the maintenance fees. That is what you're paying to own. The financing at 19% interest and stuff like that makes the companies millions and millions of dollars as well. But almost all of that money that you paid has absolutely nothing to do with the cost of that timeshare, and you're just paying for people's salaries, for lack of a better term. So
I've had people, because we always, when you go on your tour, right, it's always on a golf cart, right? And so I'm at the Wyndham down in because we wanted really discounted tickets on Universal, so of course we sat through one quickly. And
he probably stayed at Bonnet Creek. I was telling him while he was gone.
No, it wasn't Bonnet Creek. It was.
Oh, it wasn't? Okay.
I don't know. It was right down from.
There are a number of them
right down the road from Leaky Tiki. It wasn't the huge one, but
yeah, Bonnet Creek is the big one we were talking about.
Yeah. No, so this was it's just one, and then we walk in. Breakfast was horrible. Then he's like, "Well, you're not interested yet. I still got to show you the tour." And I was like, "So hey, if I come here, do I get a golf cart that I could drive around?" And he's like, "No." No, we can't give you that. And I was like, no, that's the only way I'm going to get in here. Like, my fat ass is not walking, right? Just look at the size of this place. Zero chances my fat ass is walking anywhere. Well, we can get a Segway or something in here. You could rent that. And I was like, yeah, no,
Scooter,
golf cart, bud. So now you mentioned Mexico. Like, what about the Dominican Republic? What about
you get outside the United States and it's difficult because you're not really protected by the
Federal law.
consumer law that exists here. Or maybe just consumer law sucks here. I mean, you have to jump through a lot of hoops to be protected, but at least at the end of the day, the legitimate larger companies like the Marriotts and Hiltons, they don't want to go up against an attorney general who's dealing with a complaint, something like that. Whereas Dominican Republic, Mexico, they don't care. It doesn't matter.
Right.
Yeah. So, in those situations, fighting with your credit card or filing disputes or stuff like that is a legitimate strategy because they're trying to rip you off. So there's really no holes. And you take the gloves off. What do you care? If you're, in those situations. So when you get outside the United States, yes, things get a little more dicey and a little less regulated. And you have far less options, to do things the right way. Everyone thinks that, hey, I changed my mind, I should be able to cancel. Well, yeah, that's nice in
theory.
yeah. So
Hey.
it just doesn't happen that way. And that's why those contracts are written the way they are, and everybody's like, well, I'm gonna get a lawyer. Well, who else got lawyers to write those contracts? The timeshare company.
The $10 million a year company.
Yeah. So the people have an entire wing of lawyers that wrote these and have been rewriting these contracts for 40 years to make them ironclad. So yes, I tell people all the time, I believe you were lied to. I 100% do.
Yeah.
I believe that salesman lied to your face, and I believe he told you everything that you just regurgitated to me. But unless you have a recording of it,
Yeah.
or it's then all he's going to say is, well, you misheard me, or you misunderstood what I said. And they will make comments specifically for that reason. I keep saying, and they will make statements that are legally true if you played back a transcript of it, but they make it sound like in a way that you're going to hear something different. And then one example I like to give is when someone goes in and asks about resale prices. Hey, well, what's this thing going to be worth in 20 years, or what's this thing going to be worth in 10 years when I no longer want to own it? And the answer is zero. I mean, that is the answer, zero.
Yeah.
However, the answer that the salesperson will give, because if they tell you, well, it's not gonna be worth anything, you're gonna be like, why would I buy this? That's stupid. And so the answer they give is, well, every year the timeshare's been in existence, the sale price has gone up every single year. It increases in value every year, which it does. The retail sales
On
price
their end,
goes up every single year. The average price of a timeshare last year was $21,000. The average price this year was $21,050. And then historically it goes up every single year. And that's the answer they give. And while that's a legally acceptable statement, it's perfectly valid. You heard my timeshare is going to go up in value every year.
Yep.
And then he probably said it in a much better delivery than I gave. But that is a great example of how they deflect that question to answer it, quote unquote, legally, that if they were recorded or whatever, that there's nothing wrong with that answer. That is, that's not what you heard.
Just last year, I sold this exact one for $21,000.
That's
right. It's 22. So think about next year. It's going to be crazy.
Exactly. 100%. Sorry, go ahead.
I tell you, I've actually not bought into a timeshare, but I've had to buy because of a timeshare. I'm in the Dominican Republic, and we booked what happened to be a timeshare. Not like, we just stayed at the resort type thing. They're like, hey, Mr. Watkins, come here. So we go there, and then it was the greatest one we've ever done. So this guy is 6'6", built like a brick shit house. Okay. I'm 6'1" and built like a round ball. So I can compete with most people except for fucking Shark over here. And so, but he is very he's nice guy type thing. And he's like, hey, Americans, they like to do this whole thing. Really, all we want to hear is no. And we're like, what? So think about it for 2 seconds. Yeah. When he asks you, are you interested? Say yes. So we're like, nope. Great. So we got out of this thing quicker than crap. They gave us our little fun gift. It was awesome. Because we weren't supposed to be in a timeshare presentation. I don't know how it worked. So then we go into town, and there's a cigar, hand-rolled cigars, right? And so we kind of go through this little town, go down an alley, and I end up at a cigar shop. Well, you have the open cigar shop, and then you have the humidor where he's rolling and doing stuff. So I get myself into this locked room.
You do that a lot.
And freaking guess who shows up? 6'6" freaking Shark. Oh, are you buying this? And he gets close, and I was like, any cigar you fucking suggest right now at this moment, while we're here, I'm buying that cigar. In my own head, I'm like, I don't care the price. No matter what, I'm getting out of this room. Yep, you suggest, right? So I think I probably spent $18 on a cigar, one single cigar, right? Hand rolled. And I was like, yep. As I just bought a 5-pack for $3 on the beach, right? And I was like, yep. Anything you want, buddy? You tell me what cigar I should be smoking at this moment. I'm taking my wife and her friends and myself out of this room. The best $20 I've ever spent, because I know where this is going to end, and it's not going to end pretty for all of us, right? Like I say,
Yeah, that's
at the same time, well, and then I went back down a little out by myself and almost got robbed, right? They're just like, give me your money, and I just like left and like went back to the middle of town.
it's
But
funny traveling there. We went to St. Thomas, and we had a car just go from the airport to the hotel. We didn't plan on it, but I think we went out one night to find a restaurant and got lost and wound up at a Wendy's, and the Wendy's like had armored bars on the doors, and we're like,
Yeah.
wow, this is where
it's
are we?
way different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, man, that's something. But no, I've been to sales presentations where I've even told them it's interesting. You have the person at the front desk who is paid to schedule your tour. They're not related to the sales office at all. They get paid for every person they sign up for a sales presentation when you check in. And then you have the salesperson who only gets paid if you make the sale. And I tried my hardest at a Marriott we went to, and I'm like, ma'am, I know you work on commission, that this is who I am, this is what I do. I'm not buying a timeshare. It's just not happening. Oh no, so just please just sign up. And then finally she wore me down. I'm like, all right, I'll sign up for the tour, but I'm literally, I don't want to waste the guy's time. I don't want the present. I don't want the free gift. I'm not here on a promo. I was an exchange, a rental, I think we had. And so I get there, and this is my same pitch to the salesperson. He's like, I was like, sir, I don't want to waste your time. I don't want the free gift. I just, I came here out of courtesy, And he's like, no, I've heard about your site. Why don't we just talk for a bit? And I'm like, all right, man, this is, and so we start going through, and it was a pleasant conversation, but I tried to refute. I'm like, look, aren't I wasting your time? You got a whole room full of people out there that might actually buy. And he's like, no, it's all part of the job, and wouldn't let me turn down the $200 gift card. I was like, I don't want it, and I feel like,
Right.
no, it's all part of it, and the situations like that where, sometimes I see it as a challenge, and saying, you mentioned that the saying no is, everything you've said no to, they have a rebuttal for. They've heard it all for 40 years. They've mastered the someone has expertly crafted a response, and they have been trained for that response for everything you say no for. Resale price, can't afford it right now, wife isn't here, can't make the decision, doesn't matter what it is, they've got a rebuttal for it. And and so that's, we go back to the original comment of, every person walks into a timeshare sales presentation saying they're not going to buy it yet. $10 billion a year in sales. It's a fascinating dynamic. And I have this similar conversation we're having here every time I go sit at a pool at a timeshare somewhere. I strike up a conversation with someone, and it's usually someone, we just bought. And I'm like, really? Would you like to chat? And would you like to realize you could have bought the same thing? The Marriott in St. Thomas is beautiful on the beach, absolutely picture perfect, sipping whatever frozen, whatever colada that they were offering. The guy came down, he's like, we just bought here, this is beautiful, it's magic. I was like, well, you bought it at sales presentation? He's like, yeah. I was like, well, did you know you could buy the same thing for like $3,000 that on the resale market maybe? He's like, what? No, here, man. And we chatted for about an hour, and he's like, wow, it just saved the guy $27,000. His vacation's fantastic. We actually track on our website on the forums. We started keeping track a few years back, and of confirmed people that found our website and told us that, hey, I found your website and I was able to cancel and I got a full refund, and we're over $20 million. And
good for you guys. Holy
just that
shit,
found the
dude.
website, and we don't solicit. These are people that are literally just posted on the forums that they usually it's hey, I just bought here and here, is this a good deal? And they'll get responses, no, it's a terrible deal, here's where you do something else, and yada yada yada. And they'll, if they don't confirm it, we won't do it. But I mean, only confirm just $20 million in money refunded to people who were lucky enough to type in, did I get a good deal on my timeshare? Or I just bought this, did I make a good deal? And found their way to the forums. We don't charge them a dime for that. They find the forums for free. And that's pretty much the number I'm most proud of all the stuff is $20 million of money that has just gone right back into someone's pocket and almost all of those people wound up buying resale. They're like, I was interested in it before at 20,000. I'm really interested in it at $1.
Free. Yeah.
And there are obviously some that are like, wow, I can't believe I won't do business with a company who that person just lied to my face. This is what he did. So you get that bad taste in their office or in their mouth. But that's what I always tell people is that the product attracted you, the sales turned you off of it. So when you discover the truth and do your research and find out exactly what you want, and then you buy from a third party or buy from another owner, you take all of that out of the equation, and you just have a really great vacation at almost next to no investment.
Yeah, my wife, Blue Green, you had mentioned earlier in the
Mhm.
episode, and they're the owners of like a bunch of campgrounds, right? So like outdoor adventures. And my wife loves the dream of it, and she's like, "Oh, we could do this. They have cabins that you can guarantee, and this and that." And then my neighbor, now years later, my neighbor, his parents actually own into it and stuff, and they absolutely love it. They're happy, and I'm like, "Good for you guys!" Like, and so my wife's like, "Oh, we should buy this," and I was like, and so I go online and I was like, "Look, we can buy one for $1 if you really want it that bad."
Yep.
You pay the $800 or $650 at the time, like yearly. If you want to pay $650, which I'm telling you, we could just go get cabins anywhere all around, and we'll pay that same price. But like, if we, and I told her, I was like, "Hey, I'll make you a deal. If we go camping 3 times this year, and we spend more than $650, like I will gladly go buy this. Right? If we spend less." And we didn't end up doing that, like stuff like that. But I'm like, I don't remember what site. I just randomly popped up on a site. I was like, "Hey, timeshares for sale," and I was like, "Here, there's 17 of them for sale currently right now. One is at the spot that you want to be, because you mean Grand Haven, or you could be in like Pentwater, or you could be, there's like 4 in Michigan." And I was like, "If you want to be specifically, I will buy you this one. I will buy it, and you'll have that." And so she's like, "Huh. Something's fishy about the fact that we just were pitched 20,000 and I could buy it for $1." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm glad you understand it's fishy."
Well, and I told you the story of them getting me there.
Yeah.
So
the guy who doesn't.
I bought a motorhome
Motorhome, yeah.
to get my aunt to Arizona before she died.
Mhm.
We made it to St. Louis.
It's close.
Turned around and came back because it was just a shit show. And they gave us a free week or something at one of these outdoor places. And I told my wife, I'm like, "That's fine. We can go for the weekend and check it out, whatever. I'm not buying it." And she goes, "No, I wouldn't want to either, but let's go check it out." So they actually brought us in on the last day. So we got there on Friday. They brought us in Sunday morning. And he goes, "This was great, wasn't it?" No. He goes, "Don't you like camping?" No.
Yeah.
"Why did you buy a motorhome?" And I tell him why I bought a motorhome. He's like, "Well, it's an investment now. Don't you want to use it?" No. He goes, "You're not going to buy from me, are you?" I said, "No, I'm not."
No,
He goes, "All right, well, you got to stay here for 15 minutes. I'll be back." I stand there for 15 minutes and then I left.
Of all the people that could have like hated, like, you hate camping more than anybody I know.
It's dumb.
Like, to tell people that story, they're just like, "No, that's like, no, he literally bought a camper just to go across the country."
Yeah.
And he was going to sell it by the end of it. Right.
Yeah.
Like,
Nice.
and
It was cheaper for me to buy it and use it for that summer than it was to
Yeah.
rent one. I think I spent about 18,000 to buy it. And when I sold it, it was 15,000. Now we
Nice.
didn't make it to where we wanted to, but I couldn't rent
Right.
one for the 3,000 I had.
Wow.
no, I just, so now, all right, what is the worst? So you mentioned the best, right? Like, they're the Hilton, and what is the worst absolute company? You can't get out of the damn thing. It costs the most money. It's absolutely useless. What's the worst one anybody could ever possibly do?
I would say the one that has the most universal bad reputation by its owners is Westgate.
Westgate. That's the say.
Yeah.
Here I am. I go to a Westgate one. They
Yeah,
had the
well,
worst.
that's it. I mean,
worst food too.
Yeah, Westgate is in terms of customer service and owner satisfaction, or not owner satisfaction, I won't say owner opinion. They're right up there with like Sprint in terms of customer service and stuff like that. It's just universally hated. That said,
It's not around.
I've stayed at Westgate resorts before. We do. Our last stay was at a Westgate resort. We went to SeaWorld last year on a last minute rental. It was like it's a huge. I mean, it's a dated resort. Westgate. They have 3 or 4 absolutely gigantic resorts in Orlando. I mean, we're talking 3,000 room resort hotels, which are just huge. And again, it was acceptable for kids. My kids are 3 and 5; they don't care. It's a place to essentially just a place to sleep between trips to Disney and SeaWorld and such like that.
Sure.
But Westgate, they have some severe penalties on resale, which makes their resale value worthless. It already was worthless, less than worthless. In most situations, their owner is not a very high regard. I don't know if you've ever seen some of the Netflix specials or whatever on the owners of Westgate Resort, the Seagulls.
No, I
Kind
should
of, oh
watch
yeah,
this.
Queen of Versailles, I think is the name of it. They basically like spent 20 years building the most expensive house in the world or something like that to yeah, it's just a interesting but yeah, he made all his money off the timeshare industry and uh and thus the resorts themselves. I mean, it is a mid-tier system. So I mean, you're not a dump, but I mean, certainly not on par with the Marriotts and such like that. Obviously, if you stayed in a recently renovated room, it would be just fine. You know, I personally have no problem staying in Westgate resorts. I would never buy a Westgate resort, nor suggest one do that, but not so much for the regular mentions of the poor customer service, but again, the penalties that they put on the resale buyer, the fact that you know you're paying $20,000 for something that is worth nothing, worth less than nothing on the resale market, you know, and there are just other systems that don't have those downsides, and thus it just does not make Westgate an appealing buy. They're right up there with Diamond. You know, neither of those. That said, Diamond was just bought by Hilton, so maybe things will change on the Diamond front. It's funny that the timeshare industry in the past year is gone through some major metamorphosis. You know, Marriott bought Vistana, which is Starwood and Westin and Sheraton. Hilton bought Diamond. Hyatt bought Welk, and so you have this. They're all kind of like they made it seem like they were going to merge, and then it's just going to be like all the Hilton owners can now stay in Diamond resorts and vice versa. And but that wasn't going to work because they were just the tiers were so different. And so an example for the Hilton is Hilton Grand Vacation Club is the Hilton brand resort, and they're very nice and fantastic. Well, when they bought Diamond, instead of keeping it Diamond or naming it something completely different, they called it Hilton Vacation Club. They just dropped the Grand.
Gotcha.
They're two totally separate systems. They're not, and they created a whole new system called Max, which allows the Hilton owners to kind of use Diamond resorts and doesn't allow the Diamond owners to use Hilton. It's so convoluted, but the fact that they chose the naming systems of Hilton Grand Vacations, and instead of using something different for Diamond, they called it Hilton Vacations Club. And unfortunately, the sales people who at these Diamond resorts that are now being rebranded as Hilton Vacation Club are using that naming similarity to make it seem like they're selling Hilton. And so, hey, you have access to all these beautiful Hilton resorts, but you're really buying a Diamond ownership, which is garbage, for lack of a better term, compared to Hilton anyway. If you want to buy a Hilton, go at a Hilton Grand Resort and buy there or buy in the resale market. But we're hearing so many reports of these Diamond resorts using that. You know, most people just don't notice. You see Hilton Grand Vacations or Hilton Vacations, and it's the same font and the same text and the same format. It's just missing the word Grand. And it does not have the appearance of being two completely different systems, and it's being exploited for lack of a better term. Not so much the case with the Marriott side, but it's just another example of how the sales in this industry manipulates the owners into spending as much money as possible.
Is it because they needed more rooms to sell more points?
I don't think so, because the point systems are not related at all. Diamond points, totally different than Hilton points. They're not converted. They're not, you know, modified. There's no, you know, 1-to-1. There's not even a 1-to-20. There's no way to convert this and that and the other. And the HGV Max program was supposed to be the nebulous connection between the two that allowed Hilton owners to stay at Diamond and Diamond owners to stay in Hilton. But you can't do that when you have such a disparity of value and the resorts. I mean, there are nice resorts in the Diamond system, but by and large, the Hiltons are much, much nicer. But you couldn't get someone who paid $40,000-$50,000 for their Hilton ownership to now have the same rights as someone who, you know, who's a Diamond owner. You know, there are the tiers are so different, and you can't tell all the Diamond owners that, well, yeah, your points are worth half of what the Hilton owners are. So there was, again, someone smarter than me, I'm sure, is probably figuring out how to make that work, but there's no good answer. You know, you're going to piss off 50% of the area, no matter what decision you make, you're going to make someone unhappy. But the fact that it's still sold is, oh, well, you know, we've merged and now there's just so much more availability and it's super easy to do. And it's just nonsense. So it's just why it's so important to do the research, and just something that simple. You would just, the average owner would have no idea. You know, they take a tour at, you know, a beautiful Diamond resort now branded Hilton Vacation Club somewhere, and think they're buying into the Hilton Grand Vacations program, thinking they're buying Hilton points, when not, they're buying, you know, rebranded Diamond points, which are.
That's what they're showing you a Hilton Grand Vacation.
No, they're actually saying this is Hilton Vacation Club, but the logo, if you go look,
Yeah, but
the
are
Diamond
they
Resort section.
showing you a Hilton Grand?
No.
while
You're
selling-
at a,
okay.
you are, but you don't know that. Meaning you don't know the difference. Even you got know the average person doesn't know the difference between Hilton Grand Vacation Club and Hilton Vacation Club.
Sure.
Meaning even if I showed you those side by side,
You wouldn't tell. Yeah.
you okay? Well, I see the grand difference, but the logo is the same, the circle is the same.
Yeah.
But more importantly, if I drive up to a hotel that says Hilton Vacation Club, Sedona Springs, I think that's a Hilton resort, and it technically is because it's now owned by Hilton. But last month that was a Diamond Resort, Sedona Springs.
Sure.
And they just put new signage on the wall. And when they go to sell that, they're not selling you Hilton Grand Vacation Club points. They're selling you Hilton Vacation Club points, which are essentially last month were Diamond points. And so it's a totally different system. But again, it's something that's exploited by members, or excuse me, by salespeople, because again, they're not outright saying that they're selling Hilton Grand Vacation Club, but you have all the appearance of I'm staying at a Hilton Vacation Club resort. I'm buying a Hilton Vacation Club program. Why can't I access all these Hilton resorts? Why do I only have limited to these Hilton, this subset of resorts over here? And again, I'm sure the presentations are categorized where they show you all of the resorts under the Hilton umbrella that you can technically have access to, just like when you're sold a timeshare. Well, you have access to everything in the RCI exchange category. You can trade for anything in the world. And the reality is that, yeah, that's technically true. It never happened. There's absolutely no way that you're going to trade your junk Orlando week for a penthouse in Hawaii and Christmas. That trade doesn't happen. Could it? I mean, and infinite permutations, then yeah, I'm sure, but it's just not a reality that anyone lives in. But despite that, that's how it is sold. That is how the product is sold. Is you have, in theory, you can do all of this. They just don't mention the theory part. Yeah, you can do this. I can't prove that you can't. But it never happened. Show me someone who's ever made that trade, and they're like, and so it's just a very, very clever ways to manipulate owners into spending more money than they should. 5 minutes on the Tug website would dispel any of those myths. But we see those reports from those sales presentations. It's one of the most fascinating things that we see on a day-to-day basis on the forums. Is someone will come back and regurgitate what they were told in the sales presentation, and the owners will just pick it apart. Lie, misleading, lie, and so on and so forth. And it's just, it's the same pattern over and over. It's how they're repeating it to you is not likely what the salesperson said verbatim, but it was formulated in a way that's what that person heard.
Yeah,
that's what it implied. So when you find out that, well, hey, that's exactly what the salesman told me. He may not have used those words, but that was how he explained it. And then you're like, well, is that in writing? Where's that in the contract? Show me that. Have him write that in the sales contract before you sign it. And then things situate. That's one of my favorite things to do is say, oh, I can do that. Show me in this show me in this contract where it says I can do that, where I get a free golf cart. If he could have told you that you get a free golf cart, and if it's not in the sales contract, you show up next year and you're like, well, John told me I got a free golf cart. And then you're like, John hasn't worked here in 6 months. Sorry. Yeah.
No, those are two things I want to make a point of. One, so the last one we went to, the one with the golf cart, same one. Well, he's like, what do you do for a living? And I was like, nothing. And I was like, and he's like, well, what do you mean nothing? And I was like, look, I own a bunch of real estate. Oh, and then that hit the fucking Airbnb thing. And he's like, you can make all this money. And I was like, put it in the contract that you're guaranteeing me I'm making $380 a night and you're going to guarantee it. Right. I was like, I will gladly buy your $20,000 if you're promising me for the rest of my life I make $380 per night that I own. And he's like, well, no, look here, I'm an owner. They make all of us be owners. And I was like, fine, go get everybody's cell phone and show me that all of you guys are owners. And he's like, well, I'm not going to do that. And I was like, okay, then this conversation's over. Like, I'm a landlord. This is what I do. Like, don't tell me how to run my business. I don't tell you how to run your business. Mm-hmm. So this conversation's over. The other thing that I was going to make a point of was now. So you said you've gone to like one presentation or so.
I've gone to. I try to get out of them, meaning that I make a point to be upfront that look, this is what I do. This is what I. A lot of times it's frustrating. Like I try and get out of it. Just look like I screaming kids in the car. I don't want to. I'll schedule this later. Just let me go to my room type thing. But I've attended multiple sales presentations.
My wife and I, so like we do it one for the cheap stuff. Mm-hmm. Like now it's become a game to me. Right? Like for me personally, my wife tries to always buy into these, which is great because I'm like, hey, when we go in, you're not buying anything. But it's how much shit can I get for how cheap can I get it, right?
Mhm.
Like, what to me, it's what can you give me? Because I'm gonna waste. When we were in Mexico, we went to Vedante. I'm not sure
Nonsense,
you've heard,
yes.
and
They're probably some of the worst in terms of
holy shit balls!
yeah.
I'm not lying to you. So this guy, so we get to the airport and we had pre-booked a cab, and so I was young and dumb. He's like, yeah, I'm the one taking you. Okay, cool. Well, come to find out, he wasn't supposed to be the guy taking us.
Yep.
But he's like, hey, all you have to do is do this. And so I was like, oh shit. Like, so, and he's like, look, you have to be out here, which is outside the gate at this time, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, all right. And he goes, and I was like, that's kind of fishy, right? Like, that's not the $20 that I prepaid, which had I known what I know now, like, it should only cost me like $6, like American money to get there. But I was like, all right, cool. So then we go to Vedanta or whatever it is. And our presentation started really early. And he's like, hey, you're going to get an all-inclusive pass to our resort. Come take a look. Blah, blah. They feed us breakfast. They feed us lunch. We didn't get our all-inclusive pass until like 3 something. And we had to be out of the resort by 5. Now, mind you, the only mistake they made is they fucked with me, who can drink more than most people possibly can in a very, very short period of time. But like, so what we should have had for a full day of a pass, we only got like 2 hours. And it was a beautiful, beautiful resort. Everything, like, honestly. And I love their business idea. Like, everything's paid in cash. I was, because of who I am as a person, I'm like, man, I love, like, I want to be an investor. Like, nope, you have to be Mexican heritage. You have to do this. Like, you can't. I was
Can't
like,
own. Yep, that's correct.
I was like, dude, that's awesome. Like, I love your business, right? Like, I really do. I'm not going to ever buy in, but yeah, they only gave us like 2 hours, and it's top tier alcohol, like stuff like that. And so, I mean, here I am just every 22 seconds polishing. I was like, nope, I was supposed to have 9 hours, and now I'm playing catch up, right? Like, so, and then we go back to our pool, and I ended up doing a belly flop contest. Like, yeah, so much tequila, but that was, like, we didn't get much out of that, which pissed me off because I should have gotten so much out of it. We might have actually gotten Rhythms of the Night from that one. I think we did actually. Yeah. So tickets to a really awesome event. But yeah, now it's like, hey, how much can I get? How much? And so we go to Chicago, and now I've learned that if I don't even want to go to the thing, they'll give you free tickets to the Ferris wheel. And then they'll give you so much more when you go, but at least you get the free tickets. You don't even have to go. You just be like, yeah, I'll go. And then they'll call you.
Yeah, sign up. A lot of people will just disconnect the phone in their room so that you can't. They'll come knock on your door, but you just turn. One of the biggest tactics that they say is just unplug the phones. I mean, who uses? What's the last time you used a phone in your hotel or timeshare?
Yeah,
and then they'll just try and call it. It just goes to voicemail. You never notice it. So then, I mean, they'll eventually come knock on your door. But it's a great strategy to avoid the sales presentation. Now, the downside is if you don't go to the sales presentation, you're on a promo tour, they'll actually charge you the rack rate at the end of the stay, because the promo tour is tied to sitting through the sales presentation. Whether you buy or not, it's not. But if you refuse to go and you're on a promotional tour, they can charge you the full nightly rack rate, which usually is something ridiculous on the back of the door, is like $400 a night or something stupid.
No, this was just, it happened like in Mexico. It was a random, we accidentally got with the wrong people, and that was completely my fault. And I told my wife, I was like, I'm so sorry. Like, because again, I prepaid for the taxi. And the guy's like, yeah, that's me. Like, I got you. And then he's like, hey, you have to meet me in the morning. And I was like, no, like, my taxi.
Sharks at the airport are insane. They get paid to deliver people to the sales president. I mean, that's that whole. I mean, you're walking a gauntlet coming out of them. Their biggest warnings, they say, it should have been. They should have mentioned that on usually the sales, like your welcome thing. Hey, don't be wary of the walking through the airport. Be wary of people coming up to you and this and that and the other. Here's what you should do to get your. I mean, it's very, very common. They'll drop you off at a different resort, or they'll drop you off.
Well, he dropped me off at the right resort, and here, America, right? We expect people to hold up a sign or something. Like, I was first time in Mexico. I'm like, he's like, yeah. Oh, you guys prepay, and they know it. They know that people prepay for their taxi. He's like, you guys prepay? Yeah, cool. You're with me. All right, man, cool. Like, awesome. And he's like, oh, name again? And I was like, you should know that. Like,
yeah.
Like, I was like, Watkins. He's like, yep. Cool. All right, guys. Hey, I'm going to pick you back up at like 9:30. And I was like, and like, then we knew we were screwed. But like, then he was like, hey, these are my offers and we'll feed you
Mhm.
breakfast and lunch. And I was like, yeah, I'll take free fucking food. Like, and then he's like, you guys rhythms of the night, you heard it. And so like, he sold us on this thing, promises. And I was like, we'll do this. But we thought in Mexico, so in America, I don't know what the numbers are. Your wife would know. It's like what, an hour and 15-minute presentation or
90
hour,
minutes usually, almost 90 minutes. is
90
the
minutes.
standard. Yep.
So you have to guarantee them that. Like in Mexico, there's no time limit. So you
Yes.
can't just get up and walk out, right?
You can.
It's-
I mean, you don't. It wasn't. I mean, that's one big misnomer is that you're
you
not.
can,
Yeah.
but I'm in a different country
Yeah.
of people who
correct. Yes.
granted,
Yes.
also, this is my wife who we were walking down the Malecon and a guy took a machete and started chasing another guy. And my wife's like, oh, I'm going to go watch. And I was like,
Yeah.
no, we're in fucking Mexico. That will not end well. We're going this way. And like, these people don't know the reason of stop. Right. But yeah, I was like, same as Dominican, right? When I'm getting a cigar, you name the price of this cigar.
Right.
Yeah. There's zero prices my wife is my life is worth at this moment. You could tell me it's the most hand rolled, best, beautiful cigar that's ever come, and it was $100. I would have whipped that cash out on the counter right then and there and said, "Yes, this is the best cigar I'm ever going to smoke in my life." Right? Like, I don't care about I care about my life way more than I care about $2.
One of the fun tips I've heard, I've not personally, I don't have the balls to do it, but some people will say they will walk in and immediately sign the contract for the most expensive thing they can do right off the bat. Just give me the contract, I'm signing it right now. Just to end the sales presentation, then they'll just come back and cancel the next day.
Oh, really?
And they just give me the contract, I'm signing. I want to buy whatever you want. Whatever you put in front of me, I'm signing, and they'll get out of there and they're do all the fanfare and fun. Here's your free gift or whatever, and then you go through and cancel the next day or whatever. Yep. Now, obviously, you have to go through the process of canceling, and sometimes it requires maybe you go to the sales office or whatever. But end your presentation instantly. You don't have to sit there. You get all the free gifts. You get everything, and it's again, it's one of those things where in Mexico that might not be the best idea. But I've heard people that do it in the United. I mean, especially when you can just say you can legally rescind in the United States via whatever method you want to, and that completely ends your obligation to sit through the rest of the sales presentation. They'll give you your gift, they'll give you all the stuff, and ends your presentation immediately without having to sit through the sales pitch. I try and be upfront with people and honest and go through that. And if they still want to move forward with their thing after I've told you and you think it's a challenge, well, that's on you.
His wife goes in and literally starts the clock.
Yeah. Put a phone on your desk.
Yep, she puts a phone out and says, "Nope, 90 minutes, beep, 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 beep." And then they're like, "What?" And nope, I want my thing. And then, of course, they still make you wait 30 minutes to. Well, no, we're bringing you your passes. We're bringing you to the pass. Now you have to wait in this line to get your passes and stuff like that.
Yep.
And
another people they'll ask you can say, "I want to record it." That's something they'll claim that we don't allow that. Well, so. Those are another ways to eliminate. You'll find that if there is some sort of recording document with a video or audio or whatever, the sales presentation is way different than what it would be. Is they'll usually come up with some, hey, we don't allow recording in here. I was like, oh well, technically, I require this. This is what my lawyer, whatever you want to say to do that. I just want a record of the presentation. You're asking me to sign this. Are you why would you have a problem being recorded? I'm going to show this to all my friends. If you can sell me, I would like to sell to all them. Right. And so, there are a variety of different tactics people have used to shorten their timeshare. We sell T-shirts for Tug stuff that, talks about resale, or, one of them says I paid more for this T-shirt than I did for my timeshare that I bought here type thing. And so I'll give them free memberships if they get pictures. There's one guy I got a picture with a salesperson wearing it, and I say if they buy it and go to the resort wearing that shirt, I'll give them free memberships. To the shirt's essentially free just for them to go out there. But I call it the official sales presentation uniform. People wear it, and salesmen sometimes get a kick out of it. Sometimes they don't. I love it. Again, I don't like messing with people's livelihoods, but that said, you're intentionally misleading people in most cases, and there should be no pushback to a knowledgeable consumer. Meaning, if someone has done the research and knows what they're talking about, you should. If you can't sell your product to a knowledgeable consumer, then that's a problem with you and your product. That's not a problem with the consumer. So, if you have to rely on someone not knowing that you're misleading them, I got no sympathy for you at that point. So, But yeah, it's way worse in Mexico. They'll just, flat out, they'll say anything. Doesn't matter. You can't own in Mexico, so there's really, there's no deed involved. There's no foreclosure, so you're essentially just buying a membership to that stuff, and it's just so much easier to rent. Especially since there's the Mexican rentals at resorts, they've been the most popular, most successful rentals. Royal Sands has been the top rental on Tug for years now. So you can, and as he mentioned, those resorts are all absolutely world class, 10 out of 10, 5-star, no complaint whatsoever, all inclusive, right on the beach. Just, again, if you stay in the confines of the resort type thing, it is, you just can't, they can't be beat. Even the top notch stuff here can't touch some of the Mexican resorts. But I would never suggest buying in Mexico, because not only is it your answer to get out in a Mexican resort is really default. There's just no other option. You call them up and, hey, I want to cancel my membership, or I don't want to own anymore. They'll be like, yeah, it's 7 times. I think Vedanta charges 7 times your annual maintenance fees to either exit or to transfer your ownership to another party, which, it's 7 times what, $1,800 a year maintenance fees. No one's gonna pay 14 grand to transfer an ownership. So it essentially makes those unsellable and untransferable. And so there's no, a Mexican company can't report you to the U.S. Credit Bureau, because the U.S. Credit Bureau won't take something like that, and they're not going to come after you. I'm going to sue you in U.S. court for defaulting on a Mexican timeshare. So unfortunately, the solution to exit, if they're not willing to just let you end, because there's just no foreclosure. There's no foreclosure process for that. There's no deed. It's not real estate, and so simply just not paying next year results in you no longer owning or having access to that resort. But no, you can rent the stuff at those Mexican timeshares for far less than you would ever pay in trying to own there. And they're absolutely as you mentioned, they're world-class resorts that hard to be disappointed staying at one of those.
Yeah, my buddy, we were just talking the other day, and they're going to Mexico soon, and he goes, oh, we're staying at Vedanta, and I was like, oh, Nuevo Vallarta, and he's like, no, actually it's over in the other one or whatever. And I was like, cool. Like, he acted like I didn't know, and I was like, trust me, everybody knows about this place. All right, like, this is world class. Like,
yep.
When we talk, like, I mean, I guess I've never really been to the ones you're talking about, like 4,000, and maybe it is just 4,000, like, quickly, but like Vedanta is, I mean, land, acres.
Yep.
Beautiful green. I mean, they have golf courses on their thing. They are, when I talk about 5-star, I'd say 4. Like, they might have a restaurant where the chef actually, or where the people come put your plate down. I mean, these are pristine. Like, these are, if you're interested, like, that is one you should do in that sense of things. But like, the price is just astronomical.
Oh yeah,
like
those resorts, they're just not comparable. There's no resort. I mean, there might be a couple in Hawaii and such. The resorts in the United States just don't compare to the resorts. They're just on a whole nother level. Even the Disney stuff just doesn't compare.
Yep.
Whether the all inclusive stuff is usually where that it really hits you in the pocketbook to have to play the AI fees to stay there. But no, as I mentioned, him, Royal Sands, Royal Haciendas have been two of the most popular rented resorts on Tug for the past 5, 6, 7, 8 years running. We release
which ones?
Royal Sands and Royal Haciendas. The Royal resorts are right up there with Vedanta in terms of quality. Oh yeah, now there's Royal Holiday, which is a separate system and is not, but the Royal resorts in Mexico are absolutely phenomenal. The rentals are available all over the place. Even Vedanta, you can rent at Vedanta resorts, and sometimes the AI fee is optional if you don't want to be stuck into paying that.
And that was the thing, because I asked him, I was like, hey, every time I come here, do I get all inclusive? And they're like, nope, you have to pay extra for that. And I was like, figure out how to put it in my contract. Because I mean, dude, like, when I talk about a land of beauty, I really think that is it. Like, it is, your brain can't imagine. Like, it's where I would send, if you asked me where to go, I would send you there, because your breath is taken away by how beautiful. I mean, it's Kentucky bluegrass that's all over this land. I mean, it is nothing like what Mexico is.
It's a whole nother world as long as you stay in the resort,
right in that area. and it's just, I mean, it really is like, and the palm trees are just, when you look at a palm tree on the street in Mexico, you're like, man, that's gray and whatever. You look at this palm tree here, and it's almost like they paint the fucking thing every day, right? Like these are power wash, these are clean. And you're just like, wow, I can't believe it, right? Like,
Yeah,
I mean,
those
it
are
is,
some absolutely mind-blowing resorts, and
you know,
there's nothing that I can think of that compares in the United States to that. But it has to be that way to get people to go to Mexico.
Yeah.
And so you're looking, and to not leave the resort, meaning you can't there's not like a Disney in Mexico. You're not really traveling around town to hang out, and that's where all the problems begin. And the resorts, there's so much money involved that it usually keeps most of the violence out, although there've been
oh gosh,
recent incidents and stuff like that, or at obviously it's a wink wink nudge nudge relationship with the tourism industry and the criminal side, whereas they, and to make a happy medium, we can't, you guys would be really mad if all these hotels moved out of here and these resorts moved out of here, and so it's that is always the biggest downside to renting or owning in Mexico is, especially I personally wouldn't take my family there. If it were just me, sure. People go to spring break in Cancun all the time. But yeah, those resorts are just above and beyond. But it's a totally different system that's sold there. There's no ownership there. I mean, they sell it as ownership, but it's just membership. You don't own anything, and in most cases, it's all right to use, where it expires in 20 or 50 years or something like that. And and as we mentioned, the exit side of that, and you can buy that on the resale market, but they put that barrier in place of the exorbitantly high transfer fee that most people just don't bother with that, and especially when the answer is I just stop paying and thus I no longer go anymore, is in most cases, as long as you don't own anything on it, is the only real solution to getting out of your Mexican timeshare. And so I would never suggest anyone buy in Mexico, especially the enormously higher resale prices. The stuff is just available. Rentals, especially with all-inclusive optional, or all, most owners can put you on the reservation very easy, and if you want to pay for the they're fine. They'll add that to your bill and set you up for all inclusive, and you can rent there just like any other timeshare in the world. And so if that's your bag, renting a Mexican timeshare through Tug or eBay or anything like that, again, once you establish that rapport, or that's a legitimate, there's even companies out there that will snap up these ownerships and rent them out as businesses and such. And so just with almost with any timeshare, the Wyndham, Disney has similar places where you can rent Disney reservations. There are sites dedicated to it. So just as with the United States timeshares, if timeshares appeal to you, look to the rental market. And once you've rented for a while and then you're comfortable with, hey, I really like this. This is something I can, and then you start doing your research, and then you can look into buying. There's just no reason for someone to, hey, I'm kind of interested in timeshares, I'm going to send a buy just for shits and giggles. It's just always, even at free, that's a poor decision, just because you don't know what you're buying. You don't know what you're buying. Sure, you save paying full retail, but you're obligated to pay $1,500 a year for something that you might not be able to use, or might not be able to use for what you want to take on vacations. And that's why you asked earlier, what's the best timeshare? Well, do you have a family? Is it just you? Is it, and many times the answer is there is no best timeshare for you. You do not fit the timeshare. You should not buy a timeshare. And just everyone's situation is so different, and then where they live and where they want to go. And I've heard people, I only want to go to Canada. All right, well, that limits you pretty good. There are only a couple systems that even have timeshares in Canada. I live on the West Coast. We want to go to California and Hawaii. I live in Michigan, and I just want to go to Orlando. There's just so, if I've heard it all. And so to give someone the answer, we actually have a questionnaire on the site it's 10 questions that you can answer that narrows it down to 2 or 3 systems that would work for you. And there's just a couple of questions that I even made a video on it a while back. There's just a couple of questions that immediately they don't point out your best, but they eliminate 5 or 6 timeshare systems that just deal breakers for you. The fact that you need to go here, you need to you're locked into, a lot of families are locked into the school year. That's really a big thing, meaning I can't take vacations because my wife's a teacher or my kids are in school from July or June to August. That's the only time I can take vacations. Unfortunately, that's also the only time that everyone else can take vacations. So,
Yep.
so that is just the mad dash to Florida for the summertime, and any other time of the year it's a wasteland. You could pretty much write your own ticket, but that spring break. But unfortunately, that limits a lot of people in terms of taking a family vacation. So. Buying in Orlando, as I mentioned, is a terrible idea, but buying somewhere else in a system you don't know what you're buying into and might not get you where you need to go can absolutely be a waste of money, even at $1.
So, Brian, we have a million more questions. My question to you is, can we have you back on at some point?
Absolutely. No, I love talking about timeshares. It's fantastic.
It's a great episode for me. Say we always go long, but say we try to keep them to around 2 hours ish.
So 10-15. So yeah.
No, dude, I have a million more questions because it's a fun topic for me. Thank you so much for joining us. I want to give you a couple seconds to plug yourself, where people can find you, plug your website, all of it.
Yeah, you can always find Tug at tug2.net. It's the again, very first website on the internet for timeshare owners, established in 1993, and the vast majority of the site is free and open to the public. The goal of the website is to help timeshare owners, give them the information that they need about buying a timeshare or using a timeshare. It's literally what we do day in and day out. Membership is not required to have anything on the site. Many people choose to support it with a $15 membership fee, but we'll help you regardless. And so the whole premise of the site was providing the truth about timeshares and owners, helping owners. And I'm happy to continue that my father started back in the early 1990s, and will continue to do so for as long as I'm around.
Awesome, man. Again, thank you so much for being on. I look forward to the next episode.
Really love this episode, Brian.
I absolutely enjoy talking about timeshares.
I know you've probably been asked the same questions, but we will we'll ask a million more. Trust me. My brain's already I'm going to go home and just look up your website because I loved it. Stick with us for a couple seconds.
Sure.
As always, everybody, thank you so much for listening. I hope you got a bunch of knowledge out of this. If you have questions that you want us to ask on the next episode with Brian, let us know so we can ask specific things for you. You found his stuff on where you can find him, information. If you liked it, like, subscribe, share, tell your friends, tell your family. We appreciate your support.
Yeah, and we will join you guys next week.
You've dialed in
To Box and Brews, you might hear something
you can use.
like tips on your cash or tips on the suds.
You're gonna want to
The
use
smarts of these
because
stuff.
they know the brews.
And they know the box, and they know they can't help the stubborn fucks.
So listen up, cause shit's not funny.
Save yourself some
Beer money, bucks,
and brews.
Bucks and
Bucks
brews.
and brews.
brews.
Bucks and brews.